Yo, 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 yo.
Yo.
Yeah, there we go. Let's go. Hell yeah. Woo! Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome to Swoop In and Solve Oxford 2024 on the Speedcubing TV channel. This is Manu Singhal. Just got back from a long drive from Las Vegas, and with me I have the one and only amazing solver himself, Dylan Miller. Dylan, my good friend, how are you doing today on this beautiful Sunday?
I'm chilling, man. I had a comp yesterday, so I'm excited to watch some good results today from multitudes of people, including the two Luke G's. Yeah.
Exactly. You said it exactly what I was going to say. We have a good show to bring to you today. Luke G versus Luke G, Luke Garrett versus Luke Griesser. They meet yet again in the Clash of the Titans in the Great Lakes region. Last time I think these guys went off against each other was Great Lakes Championship, where Luke Garrett was able to overcome his kind of struggling results from North American Championships, take the overall win there, and performed just really, really well overall across like all the events that he competed in. Um, Luke Garrett, Griesser, pardon, I know has been working very, very hard behind the scenes. He's made a lot of like YouTube videos and stuff like that about like his mindset, his mentality. He is all thinking about Worlds 2025 and how he can put the best foot forward there. Dylan, what do you think the viewers can expect to see today from Garrett and Griesser?
Well, I mean, hopefully some good solves. I mean, these people are both capable of sub six averages, so I mean, hopefully we'll see some nice competitive results between the two of them. Griesser obviously knows full ZB, so we'll be expecting to see a lot of that. Hopefully, some good recog and exec from him, and then Garrett just kind of does everything simply very well. Like, so you're just gonna see pretty standard stuff from him, but high TPS, good look ahead, and hopefully good solutions. And then yeah, you'll see how it all plays out between them.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be very, very exciting, I think. Um, Especially since the bar just keeps getting set higher and higher as Yihang Wang, the world record holder, has managed to match his world record again in Asian Championships this weekend. And he's just looking absolutely unstoppable. I know Griesser in particular is thinking about how can I stack up to someone like not just him, but also like the other Chinese kids. What do you think sets him apart from everyone else in this field? What do you think makes him a particularly potent threat in the world of speedcubing?
Yihang, what makes Yihang a potent threat?
Griesser.
Griesser. Well, okay, I think Griesser just obviously he pushes himself to do like improve on what he does poorly. He has very good practice regimens. He looks at what he needs to improve on, and it seems like he's gone back and done that. He obviously knows full ZB, which if you have heard me talk about anything at all, I think is going to be the meta. Looking at Juani, I think we're going to see everyone converge on that in like the next 5 years. So he's kind of future proofed himself already. I haven't talked to him at all to see like if he's been learning ZBLS, but if he has, I think that's also a huge advantage for him. He doesn't have the burst TPS that we see from maybe Ruhong, Yihang, even Garrett in this instance. But he is very solid. Like he has good enough TPS for the moments to matter, and that's all you really need. Obviously, the lower move count from his ZB and potentially future ZBLS is going to be a very big determining factor. And I think if he gets those really, really high end averages from him.
Yeah, I think he's certainly a really interesting character. I think I touched on it briefly, but yeah, his mental is also very, very interesting to me because right now it seems like he's like willing to push himself to 100%, 110% even. And I know you and I have discussed this a little bit, like in our DMs. What do you think? Like, do you think that's like going to be like a really advantage for him going forward, or do you think that's like maybe going to hinder him in some ways? And yeah, like basically, how do you think like his mindset is different from everyone else, and how that's going to shape his averages leading up to Worlds?
So I think Griesser puts a lot of pressure on himself to perform very well. And I think that's kind of what happened for Nats 23 whenever he, had that underwhelming performance for himself. He really wanted to perform very well at that competition. And I think caring a lot has its drawbacks and its benefits, right? If you care a lot, it's going to push you to like really make those changes that you need to make and improve and get better every year. But it also just makes it to where every moment that you are in has so much more weight, and you expect so much more out of yourself. And I think that's a really hard thing to expect from somebody, to just like expect yourself to always be better and like always hit in every single spot you're in. I think it's very tricky for that to happen. So like it's different than maybe the mindset of someone like Luke Garrett, where he cares, like he does, and like you could see that from his disappointing performance at NAC, where it really, I think, got to him. But he doesn't really show it in that way, and like he's not very outward about it. And I think every top level solver, and like myself included, like we all care, obviously, but not everyone is as like adamant and vocal about it. And I think it just puts a lot of pressure on himself. And like when he hits, the moment means so much more for him. And I was really
Mhm.
hyped to see his third place at NAC. I mean, he worked so hard for that, and that's really great. As for how it'll go for every round forward, I really can't tell you. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, certainly very interesting. I believe we have first round results that we do want to show. We are starting the stream after lunch here, so here we go. Here are the results from the very first round of competition. Um, I actually was asking. So on the way drive back from Vegas, I was asking my partner Jason if he could like pull some of this stuff up. And he told me that Luke Griesser 694 average, and that kind of surprised me. If you told me he got a 594 average, I'd be like, okay, yeah, like that sounds good. What do you think needs to improve here, Dylan, as he's going to go into round two, starting up now, and then finals, of course?
Well, I think he just needs to do the things that he normally does well. Well, sometimes you just have a bad round. We don't have much context because we didn't stream the solves, so we don't know necessarily what went wrong. But obviously, starting off with an 8 is not does not bode well for your results going forward, right? Your back's kind of against the wall. You need to hit in every single solve going forward, and it doesn't really help out when you have that kind of pressure on you. So I think it just needs to have a very solid start. Something I tell people is like have like a cue for yourself, something that that when you do this thing well, you get your good times. And for Griesser, that's just going to be don't pause. Standard like good enough solutions, and then just recog exec your ZB good. Like that's really all you can ask. Like those are the 3 things you need to do, and when you do that, you get your good time. So yeah, if you can do those things, I think he'll have better results going forward.
All right. Yeah, for sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. The other thing to note that it is just round 2 coming up. This is not the finals. It doesn't decide any like final placing. Obviously, you want to perform as well as you can in every single round. But if there is a round to maybe not perform as well, I guess it would have been round 1 because you've been guaranteed to go into round 2. So he has opportunities definitely to pick himself back up here. You saw on that graphic Luke Garrett getting 608 average. That's kind of what we expect to see. And from what I can tell, that looked relatively like just pretty solid overall. Some good times here. Obviously, you don't really want to have 767, but the good news is that he didn't end up counting that solve. Bunch of bunch of high fives in here rather. Convert some of those into low fives, and you got a good looking average in my opinion. Anything you see here that you want to mention, Dylan?
No, I think Garrett's always just super solid. I feel like, the reason why we look at Knack and like we think it's very uncharacteristic for him is because we always see him like hit in every spot he's in. He always seems to like do what he needs to do. And even like just in that round, there's not super high stakes, right? Like has a counting 6-4, but then he always ends off really well. So I think that's the main thing from him. He always seems to be solid, like in every spot he's in.
Yeah, and I think like we mentioned earlier, yeah, just a great comeback from just an overall, maybe disappointing is a little strong, but clearly he did not finish as well as he would have liked to, especially in 3x3. It was pretty tough, it seemed, NAC this year. I mean, even just Timon being there, just kind of maybe curb stomp is a bit strong, but Timon showed up to NAC and kind of showed up the North Americans to some amount. So it was definitely not an easy situation for him in any sense, but yeah, definitely underwhelming performance from him. But I think he's come back well, and I'm glad to see that he's competing back at like his normal competing levels. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Yeah, we can also take a look at other results from the day. We're not just having 3x3 today at this competition. I believe there's also Pyraminx going on. There's going to be Skewb happening later as well. Not sure if there was 2x2. Man, that shows how much research I did for this.
Square one.
Square one, yes. For why did I think that? Oh, because I guess 1 and 2 are next to each other. That's why I thought that square one and 2x2. Do you think I get a pass for confusing those? Maybe not.
Yeah, we'll give you one.
All right, sure. There we go. Kind Dylan Miller. Here we go. Here you can see the 4x4 results. Luke Garrett, 24-second average. That's a pretty good looking average to me. I mean, aside from 31. But yeah, otherwise pretty solid. Even got 21.51 in there. That is a pretty good looking average and pretty comfortable win for him here. 8 seconds ahead of Jason Vindvamara.
Yep, and that was PR for him actually. I saw him post about this with some spots I was in.
There we go. Yeah, I didn't necessarily want to mention it because I didn't want to be wrong, but there we go. Dylan Miller with the accurate information as always. Pyraminx is also going to be interesting here because I think it's actually reasonably competitive. Luke Van Lanningham is a pretty big name. Stephen Witteringham, of course, and Harsha Paladugu, former NAR holder. They're all going to be vying for the crown here. As you can see, round 1 results from earlier in the day. Luke Van Lanningham up ahead. But of course, these can kind of change pretty quickly. Depends a lot on, obviously, the scrambles that are received since Pyraminx is a pretty scramble-dependent event. And of course, it will also change depending on how the environment changes. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, some competitors do a little bit better when there's more of a crowd there, and then sometimes at the end of the day, the first-time competitors and other competitors have like left the venue, they've gone home, and you just have like just the finalists left. And some competitors really thrive in that environment. So remains to be seen what'll happen there. I think it'll be exciting no matter who's there. We got Skewb now. In Skewb, Luke Van Lanningham in top on the first round, 2.62 average. That's a good looking average, even getting a sub 2 in there as well. Jacob Bennett, Mason Langdeferder, second and third with 4 averages, followed by the rest of the crew. I believe we're also going to see Luke Garrett on stream for Skewb. And that should be, it'd be surprising for most top players. They wouldn't really be in contention in a lot of these events, but man, Luke Garrett is just good. I don't know how he manages to do it. Like, whether it's like a mindset thing or I was like, how do you think he gets the time to practice all this?
I mean, the thing is like I don't think he really practices Skewb like that. There is a definite benefit. I mean, Luke definitely practices Skewb. Like most all-arounders, they'll have like a spell where they like do one event, maybe more so than all their other ones, and then they just live off that improvement for like the foreseeable future. And then especially with Luke, he gets a lot of rounds, and especially for those sprint events, Pyra, Skewb, whatever, he has a lot of possibilities to get good scrambles, and he has very good fundamentals. Like he also just like he never does like the most advanced thing for any event, but he always maxes out like just barely below that. So we're like, he's not a specialist in it, but he's very, very good with like the second best thing you can do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just impressive personally. I guess there is almost certainly some like fundamentals that carry over from one puzzle to the next, but it seems like he's just good at like things that don't seem related at all. Like he'll be good at like 3x3 and also just good at square one. It's like, really? Like, I guess there are a lot of square oneers who are really good at 3x3. I'm thinking like Ryan Pilot, Max Shao, and Samir Agarwal. So maybe that was not a good comparison for me to make.
Well,
in any case, we're just here having this yap session while the competition is going on behind us. They actually did first round as well for square one, so we might as well cover those results. I think Jacob Bennett is the favorite here. 8.92 average in round 1. Alex Bronsdorf and Luke Garrett second and third. So there you go. And Luke Griesser actually in fourth. I actually didn't know he was good at square one. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't know he picked him up. I didn't know.
All right, let's go. So that might be an interesting contest in and of itself. Maybe who's going to get third place or second place even. That's fun. I feel like the second and third place contests can be really fun. In Vegas, we had a really, really fun contest against. Well, at the end, it was like who was going to win because both Max Park and Jeremy Bullenbot could have won that competition. But even in 4x4, it was interesting to see who was going to get second, third, and who was going to be knocked off the podium entirely. So those are all reasons why you all should stick around. Even if, square one is not an event that you think is particularly interesting, just the fact that like there's these two juggernauts who are both like pretty good at this event, and getting on the podium is getting on the podium, right? Like it's not all about the gold. I know certainly my first podium was very, very special. All right. Looks like we are going to get queued up, get started with 3x3 round 2 action here. Swoop and Solve Oxford 2024. Braden Richards on the stream right now. He's going to get us started. First scramble for him. Looks like he's got yellow on the bottom here. Decent looking scramble to start things off. Looks like he's made a bit of a mistake into F2L, going into his last layer now. Simple 9 mover into an A perm, 10-16. Looks like he almost plus 2'd, but ended up solving the cube entirely. That's going to be solve number 1 for Braden.
Yeah, for sure. And I know Braden personally a little bit, so I know that this solve is not necessarily characteristic of what he normally does, but it seemed like mainly it was just some execution stuff there. Most of his decision making seemed pretty good here. Starts off with first pair. He does solve it into the front slot, which is not ideal, but then he deals with these diag pairs really well. Most of the time you'll see people kind of mess up in these spots, and he does a lefty ZBLS here, which is interesting. I haven't really seen that execution before. And then yeah, he does just like OLL PLL, pretty standard.
Yeah, so that I definitely want to talk about like what he did on that last pair, because did he have no edges oriented on top?
Yeah. For sure.
Okay,
so
that's why
like
we saw like some of those M moves things.
Yeah, I think the M move was an execution error, but there's a wide R alg that solves like the 3 mover with no edges oriented, and you'll see that a lot. I actually had that in All Stars finals. I used it and then I got OLL skip A perm. That was my best solve of the average there. So I've had it once or twice.
There we go. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about like why we care about edges oriented for those who might not be as privy?
Yeah, for sure. So all edges oriented cases are generally just like easier to recognize. Generally the algs are also faster to execute, and then at a slightly higher level, either you're doing ZB on those cases and you're getting like a 1 look last layer, or you're doing like OLL CP, so you're forcing better PLL, or maybe you can even predict PLL with all edges oriented cases a little bit easier. Dot cases, none of those things really ring true as much. We have some better dot case algs now, like the S move algs that are like pretty fast in a vacuum. But of course, like if you can avoid it without too much extra effort, like you should just avoid the dot case.
Yeah, I mean there's like some really simple ways to avoid dots too. It's just like sometimes you could just sledge. And yeah. I don't know, what is your opinion on doing backsledge to avoid dot? Do you think that's worth it?
No, not generally. I actually found out a new way to do like avoid dot with back right case. So I've been using that one a little bit differently. So.
Oh, interesting. Might have to hear more about that. Here's Braden up for solve number 2. Looks like he's eyeing the white cross here. Got a couple edges oriented. Going into F2L now, onto F2L3, and now F2L4, OLL, pretty standard OLL, into another A perm, performing that with the right hand, getting another 10-10 here.
Yeah. This one seemed to adhere more to my principles a little bit more. You see his first pair is actually this back left one, and then he does a few too many like unnecessary rotations here. Has a slight lockup or just like mess up on that last pair, and then it looked like he thought his A perm was a GA perm, and then he AUF'd, and then he had to do A perm there instead. But yeah, just some slight silly things here and there, but like fundamentally it's pretty alright. It's just execution.
Yeah, I mean a lot of it is just like, if you, as we watch this competitor solve, a lot of this is like, there's a lot of competitors who turn really, really fast, and they end up getting like 20-second solves. It's like, okay, well, how can I improve? I think solves like that are examples of it, right? Braden is not turning exceptionally fast here, but he just has a lot of solid fundamentals that he's able to capitalize on, and then just give himself like better cases. It's not all about turning fast. There's definitely a lot to do with look ahead, as well as efficiency.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you need to have both in order to get really good times, right? If you rely on just either one of the ends of the spectrum, it's not going to really bode too well for you. You'll definitely reach a plateau at a certain point.
Yeah. And that's like one of the things that I think is really, really important as we watch like the highest cubing, how competitors are going to be able to balance like this turn speed, look ahead, and efficiency metrics. We saw a lot of that with. It was really interesting watching GAN SSL because you could see some of those stats right then and there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also important just for like the people who are doing those solves to know those things and improve on them.
Yep. All right, here's Braden now. That yellow cross was definitely one that stood out to me. It looks like he could solve 3 pieces correctly oriented in 1 move as he continues on here. Shaking his head a little bit, doesn't think he has a particularly good solution. He ended up with a left Soon, which ended up giving him good CP. He had all corners permuted, so he was left with just a U-perm. 869. Good solve from him.
Yeah, definitely. We see he had it looks like he had 2 free pairs here. Maybe I think looks like, and he did the same ZBLS here as well. Actually, UU prime on the OLL, and then just good PLL. He was shaking his head, but that's still his best solve at the average. Probably not exactly what he's hoping for, but you know, it's better than what had happened so far. So I think you can't really be too upset with it.
Yeah, certainly. And once again, this is round 2. You're gonna try and make finals. I think Braden should be pretty much confirmed to make finals. I'll check and see the psych sheet to see what exactly is going to end up making finals here. One thing I would like to point out, as I explain every single time, I have a bit of reputation for doing this now. I love to explain the average of 5 format because I think it's a really unintuitive format for anyone who doesn't know anything about speed cubing. So the way that the average of 5 format works is you get 5 solves, but not all 5 solves actually count towards your average result. So it's a little bit misleading. It's not the average that you learn in like elementary school. We actually take the best time, get rid of that. We take the worst time, get rid of that. So right now, if you were to just take these 3 times, we would say that the 869 is not yet a counting time. And the 818, the 1018, we don't know if that's going to be a counting time. But 1010, no matter what happens from here, is definitely going to count. So we will call that thing a counting time. You want to get your counting times as low as possible, obviously, so you get the average as low as possible. But that does mean that you can throw away 1 good solve and 1 bad solve. So if you get a good solve at the beginning, that's good because that means that your other good solves could count. If you get a bad solve at the beginning, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that you need to be cautious to make sure that you don't get another bad solve, which could potentially count.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're seeing kind of a difference in styles here between I think Stu said this person's name is Nate, but he's much more of a TPS reliant solver than Braden is, and they're actually on the same solve right now.
8 seconds.
What do you see here, Dylan? Anything particular in this scramble?
Well, there's
White
a free pair on
kinda
yellow. Yeah, there's a free pair on yellow. That's probably what I'd be looking for. But he does go for white. Just a few too many rotations, I think, from him. And then just, you know, slight hesitations, like, kind of everywhere. You want to try to transition everything into all of your next moves, and it seems like he's just not too sure about what he wants to do. Once he recognizes what he needs to do, he'll get it done, but there's just a little too much choppiness between everything, right? A little uncertain.
Yeah, that one there was particularly interesting when he had that L case for Olo. I wonder if he was looking to see if he could recognize the ZB. Maybe not that there, and decided to take the 8 mover into the bad J perm. I mean, otherwise, like, it looked pretty good. He ended up getting an 8 anyway, right? So
yeah,
not too bad. He's gonna end up with at least 1 counting 8 now, right? No matter what he does, like his cube could like explode or whatever, and he would be able to count an 8, an 8, and a 10. Not bad. Not bad overall.
Yeah, definitely. And
he's actually up again, so we're gonna see solve number 5 from him. This is going to lock in his average. How's it going, Braden? Hope you're doing well. Okay, I was gonna say it was a little too quick for him to have gotten his cube there. Yeah, so just a simple send back. Evan Brown as the judge, delegate from Kentucky. All right, let's watch Nate's solve here. It's also going to be going onto the white cross. Yeah, so Nate definitely seems to be a little bit more of a TPS turner, but I mean, when you get a good solution, it can just work out. 8.45 here.
Yeah, I'm not the, you know, he does generally adhere to like my basic principles here. He doesn't actually rotate in this solve at all, so generally he's following good edge orientation decisions. And I saw specifically like that PL execution. I see like a decent amount of people use that. It's different than what I do. Like they do a U move with their like right ring finger, which is really interesting. You don't normally see that unless it's specifically on that PLO.
You move with the right. Oh yeah, that's
so you do
just a single
grip,
U.
You start. Yeah. So you do R2 prime, and then you do U with your right ring finger.
What the?
Yeah, it's.
My brain is like not even able to like put this together right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so strange. That's so strange. All right, here's Braden up for. Yeah, so here's Braden up for solve number 5. Yeah. So this is just the one that that Nate had just got too. 8 seconds. So he's actually going to pick yellow here, it looks like, which is interesting. Nate had ended up picking white. The dual color neutrality is certainly very interesting. Seems like, oh, this is a good-looking solve, too.
Right, COLO.
Yeah, interesting. Much cleaner. You could hear him say that was not the right COLL there. Ended up misselecting, but ended up he had paper at the end, right? So pretty good regardless.
Yeah, he did have 2 GLL there, so I know Braden was a handful of like the easy last layer cases. So you know, maybe if he didn't recognize, we could have seen maybe a sub 7 there potentially. But yeah, no, you see that solve was just much cleaner. Like his solution didn't seem much better or much worse. You know, he only had 1 rotation for the whole solve, which I try to tell people to keep it under 2, and in that case he did. So worked out for him well there, obviously, but just everything flowed a lot smoother, right? There's not as much hesitancy, and maybe that's a product of just, you know, feeling like you already have the counting 10, you already have the 8, you know, just send it, you know, you'll get your time, and you know that solve is definitely well within Braden's wheelhouse to get like on a consistent basis. So
yeah, so if he had option selected the correct case, so that was the T case, and he ended up doing just an 8 mover, seeing that it was like solid, like matching, right? But I guess the correct COL was what? It was matching opposite that he was trying to do instead? Or did he pick the other one, actually?
I think he picked the other one, yeah. So it looked like
sorry, in the opposite order.
Matching. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And that's like...
Yeah, because... What do you think of that alg? Because that's also an alg I use, so that's like interesting. Like, I don't know, is that alg any good?
I don't use that alg. I'll tell you straight up. I don't use that much COLO on that case specifically.
I guess there is that 10 mover that you can use instead. That's kind of like 8 perm but double.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. In any case, that's a good amount of yapping from us. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break because we are at the end of the group here. So stay tuned for these messages, and we'll be back from Swoop and Solve Oxford 2024.
Hey, we're your SpeedCube shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup SpeedCubes. Our team of experts will dial in your SpeedCube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
Here we go. Welcome everyone. We are back. We're back with a bang. Luke Griesser here, off to do his very first solve of this group. Swoop and solve Oxford round 2. He's got yellow on the bottom. Now switching around a little bit. Looks like he's going to end up doing white cross instead. Very, very fast turning out of the gate. Pretty good looking solve. And here's the ZB. 560. He's looking pretty happy with that one.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, that's sort of really clean actually. This TPS doesn't look very like typical from Griesser here, but he does ZBLS here, and then he gets this. The Recog XX is pretty good here. The last slot seemed like there seemed like maybe a slight execution error there. But you know, at this speed, it's like that costs you so much. That solve could have easily been in like the low 5 range rather than the 5-6 range.
Of course. I mean, a very solid start regardless. Here's Luke Garrett now going back to back. He's going to get warmed up a little bit. Luke Garrett getting first in round 1 with 608 average. He's ready to go. Note that this is going to be the exact same scramble that Griesser just received, but looks like he has green on bottom instead. Yeah, he's really liking having the green on the bottom there. Here we go. Wow, what was that execution? 422.
Big lockup at the beginning.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say
but
this start here, he kind of
like the
fumbles
weirdest
this right
solve
here. Look at this big lockup right here that mess up.
Wow.
But this solution was such low move count, right? And he does this OLLCP, or just like the standard ALG, there's 2 ALGs for this case, and he cancels into that back R3 ALG, and that's something that I do a lot as well, so I'm glad to see him do it. But yeah, you're already in grip to do that specific execution where you end up with your wrist positioning kind of pointing upwards, which is something you don't see on most ALGs. But that F2L was just very, very low move count. So obviously, whatever he saw worked out well. And that's the advantage that Garrett has over Griesser, because he is not dual CN. He is color neutral.
Exactly. And this is something that I think is like a really interesting... I think it's a really interesting debate, if you will. It's a interesting dichotomy in cubing right now. Does it pay off to be color neutral, where you have access to more solutions, but maybe your solutions are shallower? Or would you rather be like Yihang, where you can only see white and yellow, but you're seeing like 3 pairs in inspection? Or like Xuanyi, where sometimes you just see all of F2L in inspection, right? Plus EO. So I think it's really, really interesting. Garrett showing off here that CN does still have its advantages.
Yep, most definitely.
Here's Griesser now. White, yellow. He looks like yellow on the bottom right now. He did have that connected yellow edge corner. Looks like he's going to throw that away. White cross instead. Interesting. MTU to M prime. Or sorry. MTU to M2 for cross. 563. Looks like he didn't get punished too hard off of that.
Yeah, it seems like it was not planned from him. Yeah, this scramble looks really good for white or yellow. It seemed like there was some good stuff here. And then this is just a Pi ZB that took a little bit of execution or recognition time, but he still got there in the end.
Here's Garrett now. Red cross is the choice. Yikes, fumbled a little bit there as he was trying to set up a ZB, it seems. 655 plus 2. Did not fully solve the cube, but only 1 move off. We give that a +2 second penalty. It'll be 8.55 for his second solve here. What happened there, Dylan?
Yeah, it seemed like it was flowing pretty well here going into the solve. We see the start was much cleaner than the last. There's a bit of a pause from 3rd and 4th pair, and he does that. He messed up. He thought he solved the pair in the back, but he actually didn't. So then he had to go back, solve it, and then he had EO.
I see.
He did like back sledge to like solve the pair, but it didn't actually get solved. And then he had that ZB that he ended up doing, and just didn't do that last turn, unfortunately.
Yeah, so a tale of 2 solves there. We saw 422 immaculate execution. Definitely not immaculate execution on the 422. An amazing solution. And then on this one, it looks like, yeah, just kind of some messed up execution and odd planning. We'll see where this average is going to go. I mean, like I said, neither of those times could end up counting. It's actually pretty likely that neither of those times will end up counting. So
yeah,
he could end up with a mid-5 average, he could end up with a 6 average, he could end up with a high 6 average even. Luke Griesser, on the other hand, back-to-back, ending up with some pretty solid solves here. 560, 563. His PR, 551. It's not out of reach.
Yep, he would just need to turn up on these last few, maybe get like a counting 5-4. So, you know, he'd have to keep up this pace that he's on.
All right, Garrett now, he's got to recompose himself after 855. Let's see what he's going to look at here. He's turning around a lot. Looks like he's got red on bottom. What is he going to end up picking? I don't see any red edges here, which means they must either be in E or on D. Red is the cross of choice.
Nah.
5-10. Interesting. So from that OLL, it looked like he was in a good position, but I couldn't quite tell what happened on that PLL.
So for this OLL specifically, it's very easy to predict PLL here, and you see he's going right into that ALG there, but there was just a slight lockup. It had nothing to do with his position going into it.
Okay, there we
was
go.
just slight execution error.
Okay, well, good comeback from the 8. Griesser now.
That sucked, bro.
666. That sucked, bruh. And that's kind of all she wrote as we look back on the replay here.
Yeah, I think this was a pretty typical solve. Honestly, I think it was just the last part. Here we see a slight fumble here, solves first pair. He actually, it was like he set up 2 free pairs, and then he does ZBLS here in this back right slot. That's really nice. And then he gets this CB. I know this CB, and I don't really like it. But that is the same round most people use. It's just unfortunately like the grip shift to go into that ALG from like typically where you end from F2L just isn't very natural. I found so. Especially from like where he got it, he has to do that U2 and then grip shift and then do the ALG. It's not very ergonomic.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, I feel like solution-wise, it looked pretty decent. In terms of just like the raw moves that he needed to do and the number of moves he needed to do. It just looks like the execution was just not fully there, and ended up with a 666. But he's gonna hope that one is not accounting time.
Yep, most definitely.
I mean, after 3 solves, Luke Garrett is definitely in better position at the moment. 5-10 is the counting solve, but you know, anything can kind of happen here. Let's see what he can do. He's gonna want to like, you know, curtail it back a little bit, maybe calm the roller coaster.
Free pair here on yellow.
He does have yellow on the bottom.
Looks like he's not
Maintaining his orientation. Looks like he's just... Yeah, no. Looks like orange was the cross of choice instead. Pretty simple OLL, even one that I know. 629. He's not particularly happy with it as we go over to Luke Griesser. Starting off on the yellow cross.
Dude, come on.
620 looks like execution mistake at the end there. Otherwise, he could have had low 6 or high 5 even. 620 on that last solve. Let's take a replay at both of these guys here.
Yeah, it seemed like both of them are just... Garrett's solve looked like it had just a few too many moves. Execution is fine for the most part, but he looked a little unsure about his start. He kind of went back and forth here. And then Griesser for sure makes something off this yellow first pair. And then most of his decision making is pretty good here. He does this... I don't see most people using this execution for that OLL that he did, but his transition into PLL was really good there. You know, better than like you would see traditionally in that spot. So that's definitely good to see that at least like he's transitioning well in those spots.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise like pretty solid. And yeah, I feel like the execution for Griesser has just been a little off, and I don't think it's off by that much. I think he just needs, if he cleans it up just a little bit, he can definitely get like a lot better times. 581 is his best possible average, so no longer possible for him to get a PR. 616, the worst possible average, so he's guaranteed to get something in between there. Good comeback from his round 1 result, right? Like, you know,
yeah.
From round 1, like 6-9, funny number, sure, but not really the average you want. This is definitely much more in line.
Yeah, definitely. And 560 is within his wheelhouse here. And this yellow is looking very juicy, I have to say.
Yep. One final look.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
And just solid. 523. He locks in the best possible average to get 5.81. This just looked clean, like from every single aspect.
Yeah, definitely. You know, just build something off this pretty easy start, deals with these dive pairs well, and he actually forces EO here, which, you know, most people might not see. He did an alternate last pair solution to get EO there, which required a rotation, but is net positive.
Garrett now just wrapping up his solve here, 601. It looks like it ended up a little bit more on the side of solve 2. Not a fantastic average, but 5.80, 0.01 better than Luke Griesser because he was able to count 5.1. We told you we would have a show here, right? And this goes to show how close these guys really are, although they got there in very, very different ways.
Yeah, that is kind of the storyline people want to see, right? I think 0.01 is quite humorous the way it plays out like that, you know. I mean, Griesser gets BPA here, so like he can't really be too mad. There's nothing he can do in Sol 5, right? Garrett's the one that has all the pressure on him, right? His WPA is 665, and he gets a 601 here, which is like pretty average for him, but it could have been a little bit cleaner. The PLL transition was a little bit subpar for his standards, and it was a little bit locky as well in the execution. But overall, like, you know, it's a pretty Luke Garrett average. You know, there's the average Luke Garrett meme. Starting with 4.285 and then just like being solid for the rest is just like how you expect his averages to go.
Yeah, I mean that's just the way it is. And for someone like Garrett, sometimes it doesn't even matter necessarily because I feel like he's like particularly good at finding like really good singles. As we watch Luke Griesser here, this looks like solve number one.
Yep.
And here's Garrett on solve one. I feel like he's really, really good at getting good singles, partially because like he has like the wild card of being able to pick 4 additional cross colors, right? So there might be like a really, really good case that he can just find. He has like some really good turn speed also for the most part. And so that also enables him to, you know, just kind of like almost just power through any kind of like disgusting solve you might have. You might have like if like a 50, 55, 60 move solution. But if you execute at like 12 TPS, you're going to get a 5 on a 60 move solution, right? Exactly. So that's kind of, he's shown off a little bit here. Now, when the engine doesn't run on all cylinders, when there's nothing to see there are execution mistakes, the solution is not particularly efficient, you may end up getting one of these like lower 6 solves. It'll be really curious to see which Luke Garrett is going to show up in finals. Are we going to see the Luke Garrett that can just find the optimal solutions or like, you know, really, really solid solutions? Or will we see a Garrett that is struggling with execution? Remains to be seen. There's a lot of time between now and then. He's definitely going to compete in a lot of other events too.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I think we didn't really talk on is like Griesser he forced EO in like non-traditional spots like 3 times in this average, I'm pretty sure, where he's doing specific last pair solutions, not necessarily doing ZBLS, because most of these cases are just like, I mean, I would probably do most of the similar solutions for last pair that Griesser did, but you know, he didn't really get super huge benefits on like at least that last one he got soon. You know, maybe if he gets like T2 GLL or something there instead, like this average could go a little bit differently, right? To partially like if he gets slightly better cases, he's making good decisions. Like something I tell people a lot is like you want to make the best decision with like your given information, right? So it's like, you know, if you're like, oh, I do this solution because I get PLL skip, it's like that doesn't really make sense, right? So he's doing whatever you expect him to do in these spots, and you know, maybe if he just gets rewarded with like slightly better cases, the average could have been, you know, maybe even like 5.7, 5.6.
Yeah, certainly very interesting. And you don't know, those better cases might show up later today. After this, we are going to go into a little bit of a break. Let's all like calm down a little bit. That was an exciting 10 solves that we saw there. We're gonna go into Pyraminx round 2 after this break. So tune in for that, everyone. We'll be just a few moments.
Cubing Life Academy aims to support the next generation of cubers through professional courses and coaching, as well as top cubers by fairly compensating them for sharing their skills. Use code SpeedCubingTV for 5% off any purchases at Cubing Life Academy.
This is Swoop Timmy here with the new Max Park Cuber from Rubik. This is a limited edition cube. Believe me, supplies are very, very limited. And Max is donating 100% of proceeds to nonprofit autism support groups. This cube is exclusively only on Amazon using the link below. This is a great cube to add to your collection, and you'll be help supporting autism awareness. Thank you for your support.
Thanks to all the sponsors for supporting this live stream and supporting speedcubing in general. I, for one, think that we need more and more eyes on speedcubing, so I'm very, very glad to shout out some of the sponsors here today. All right, Dylan, we're about to start Pyraminx round 2. We looked at some of the results from round 1 earlier. they looked pretty interesting to me. Luke Van Lanningham, I think, is one of the favorites here. But of course, I think you'd be a fool to count out Stephen Winteringham or Harsha Paladugu. And of course, there are definitely others in the field who want to make a name for themselves as well. Tell me a little bit about what you think we're going to see in Pyraminx here, what the viewers should kind of be looking out for.
Well, yeah, so Pyraminx, the main method is last 4 edges, L4E. So, if there's like a nice little V shape, those are definitely really good scrambles. Here, like, you're just going to see, traditionally with Pyraminx top level and just most sprint events, you just want to inspect. So you want a 1 look, so just see your entire solution in your inspection time. And with Pyraminx especially, you really want to try to find the best solution possible, right? More Pyraminx tech nowadays is like doing L4E from like alternate angles, which is something that we see in 2x2 with like LEG1, stuff like that. And there's also like pseudo Vs for like the top level solvers. I don't know if we'll see any of that here today. But yeah, someone that you forgot to mention was John Gaynor. He used to be an AR holder for Pyra Single.
Oh,
and here we see he got second in the round. I actually had the opportunity to talk to him at North American Champs, and yeah, he's really into powerlifting now. He looks way different than what he used to. But yeah, it's really interesting to see that he still kind of got it. He told me that most of the pressure's off for him, right? He doesn't take it too serious, and sometimes you'll see those older cubers who don't really care too much. They come back and the pressure's off them. They don't care, and they'll live off their previous practice, and maybe they can execute well on these scrambles.
Yeah, here's hoping. I think you're absolutely right. I think that would be really fun to see, because it's just like, all right, whatever happens, right? Not necessarily gunning for a particular result. It's just like trying to do well overall. If in case anyone was curious, right? We've mentioned a lot of like top level solvers. Like there are, like Luke Garrett is 101. Let's just count him in top 100 for this. There are 5 solvers in the top 100, ranked worldwide, including, and actually Luke Garrett has 0.05 single. That's WR8. Harsha has 0.98 single. That's WR14. So these are going to be some like top level solvers here. If you're interested in Pyraminx, you definitely want to tune in once the round is going to get started. It's going to be really interesting. Is this the final round, or is there another round after this? Let me quickly look at the schedule. There's another round after this. So the competitors are mainly going to be not trying to mess up, which I think is not trivial, especially for an event like Pyraminx, because for short events like this, if you +2, you basically DNF'd. Like, you might as well like just not started the solve at all. You might as well like just thrown your cube like literally across the room. I think that's going to play a pretty big factor here. Let's see what happens. I think we're going to see people try and keep their mistakes to a minimum. Ugly looking scramble on that first solve here, but 203 with good looking execution. Just that slight pause, I think, to do recognition, and that's just clean, right? There is no like +2 situation. It doesn't even look close to a +2 at all. Just solid execution. That's like the level of competitor we're talking about here. This is gonna be fun. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been like super excited about a Pyraminx round, but this is actually gonna be pretty fun. It's pretty competitive.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see, right? There's a bunch of different storylines here. Harsha is obviously like a very, very good solver in his own right. We see him coming up now, and yeah, he hasn't really been practicing Pyraminx as much, but he's still definitely capable of very, very good results.
As I mentioned earlier, he previously held the continental record when he got that 0.98 single. Looking to pull something out similar to that. Also, the American national record holder, 1.31. Sorry, 1.31. That was also a single. This is a scramble with 3 tips. That means it's going to take a little bit of extra time to solve those. 2-4-4. He's not super happy with that. Looks like he did have a little bit of a longer pause, I want to say.
Yeah. I think there was just like, Harsha is known for his TPS, terror speed, I think, is like the little meme around him. But yeah, he seemed to have executed not to his like ideal standards here. We see someone else had gotten the 2. Carson got the 2-0 single on the first solve, so definitely left a little bit on the table there.
Carson Clark, number 6 on the psych sheet, 220 PR average, so he's shooting below that right now. This is a 1-tip scramble, that looks particularly good. 185. They are happy with that, and I mean, yeah, just look good. I mean, anything with 1 tip is pretty good.
Yeah, and the main thing with Pyra is like, when do you deal with the tip, right? Do you do it at the end? Do you do it during pickup? You know, and like fitting that into your solution is another layer, you know, to the whole Pyraminx meta, figuring out how to deal with your tips effectively.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I started cubing in 2013, I wanted to learn how to solve Pyraminx. I wanted to learn how to do it fast. And I watched a Cubing World video on how to do it fast, and even back then it seemed like it was like pretty inconclusive as to like, well, when do you want to do it? Here we saw this competitor do a couple tips at the beginning and then that final tip at the end to get 752 solution. And yeah, it just seems like a lot of stuff is viable.
I do the same method that we just saw him do here, and I love this last layer case. 2-flip, that's
good,
the goated
so
last layer
good,
case. Dude. Layer by layer Pyraminxers know what I'm talking about.
No, exactly. I mean, this is the same method that I've also used for literally 10 years at this point. And there's there's a one really annoying 3-edge case where like one of the edges is like not or 2 of the edges are not oriented, but there's like otherwise it's like a cycle. Man, dude, that one is so obnoxious. I hate trying to recognize that case. If someone has a good way to recognize it, let me know. I should pull up the chat, by the way. You guys are probably chatting away, expecting us to respond, and I don't even have it open. Bad streamer reacts only.
But seems like Carson's on really good pace here. I mean, his fundamentals seem like he's very capable of beating a 2-2 average. I mean, with my limited Pyraminx knowledge, that's what I'm seeing.
I mean, it does really come down to scrambles. This one is a 4-tip scramble, not as good, but it does look like there may be some blocks that he could take advantage of. And that looked really good.
Yeah, that's very clean. 199. Okay,
you could hear him say that there. First counting sub 2 for him. 1.99. Break it down, Dylan Miller.
He solved with the Pyraminx fast. Yeah, I mean, it seemed just like good turning, right? That's always good to see. That's all I can really tell you.
We're a bit out of our element because we are not the top Pyraminx solvers ourselves. But I mean, look, I think it's cool when I think like anyone can appreciate this. And some people, I've actually talked to some people about this. I'm like, yeah, like, you know, we stream these like cubing competitions all the time, right? They're like, oh, I don't know anything about cubing.
You're at 15.
I'm like, you don't need to know anything about cubing. Sometimes all you need to know is that like this guy is on PR pace, right? This guy is like, he needs to like clutch this out. Like, you need to get 6 seconds to win. And it doesn't matter what the solution looks like. Sometimes it's just like, they either need to get 6 seconds and they won, or they got like 7 seconds and they lost. And I think those like storylines are really important to pull out sometimes, because all of that stuff matters. It doesn't, maybe Carson isn't going to win, but if Carson gets a PR, that's still awesome for him at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And it seems like Harsha has checked a few different solutions here. Doesn't truly love any of them. Harsha is actually, you know, was at the forefront for like Pyraminx methods. I correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say he either like helped with ML4E, or that's the alternate L4E angle like subset. And so he is one of the more knowledgeable solvers of Pyraminx like at this competition here today. And yeah, so he's going to be able to check a lot more solutions here. It just seems like maybe he's not finding the best solution possible, or maybe it's just his turning isn't up to standards, because Carson seems to be executing quite well on these scrambles.
Yeah, I mean, part of it definitely has to be solution finding. Something that I think is really interesting is, well, you mentioned like top competitors are looking at multiple solutions. Like, you know, you get the comment all the time like, oh, it would take me like a year to solve this thing, as Carson is going to get started with solve 4. But these guys are looking at a bunch of solutions and evaluating all of them to see what is going to work out the best. 1.98. I think he's locked. Like, he's definitely locked in a PR here. Every single solve has been sub his PR average.
I'll give you the while I'm done.
If I get the math right, that's a 2 flat average. So if we get a sub 2.03 here, there will be a second barrier being broken. The last second barrier that we have in Pyra for average at least.
Yeah, that's incredible. Incredible to see. Congratulations on that, Carson. Looks like he might end up at the top of the ranking in round 2.
Yeah. Love to see it. Any PR is always like so fun to see, and like just seeing anybody. It doesn't. Yeah, it could be anybody at any speed at any event, and just seeing them, just enjoy the moment. That's always great.
The pop off. I love the pop off. We need more pop offs in cubing. It's just so hyped to see.
I'm waiting for the H-box pop off where they.
We'll save it for Worlds 25. Save it for Worlds 25. 3x3 finals. It comes down to the last solve. Whoever it's gonna be would be awesome. Harsha getting a solve. Pyraminx here. It's gonna get sent back.
You did not give me a scrambled cube.
It's a Pyraminx, sir.
Oh my gosh.
But yes.
Pyraminx not exactly a cube. Braden Richards helping out here. He is one of the main delegates of this region. Ohio has actually a lot of delegates now. I think when I started, it was just IllQ when I started cubing. But now there are like, I think 4 or 5 delegates in the state of Ohio. Good to see speed cubing grow across the state, across the region, across the country, and across the world. Certainly been a very, very fun year for cubing 2024.
Ohio's held the second most amount of comps in the states, which is like a surprising statistic. If you think about the biggest states, it's like California.
Really? What's number?
Like
is
Texas.
California number 1 and then Ohio?
California and then Ohio, yes.
Oh my goodness! And we've been spamming comps over here. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I think Ohio. Oh, dude, they have so many comps. And then Carson's on potentially about to get. Doesn't look like he likes to scramble though. Oh, no.
Yeah, no. Maybe he looks like he tried to send it, ended up +2ing. It doesn't matter. He got 2 flat. Unfortunately, unable to break the sub-2 barrier. Just right there. 2-0-0. I mean, that is a great achievement for him. I'm going to quickly look at the leaderboard to see where exactly that puts him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sizable PR. But like if you don't know cubing at all, you see like you go from 2.2 to 2.0. Like, what does that really matter? Like, percentage-wise, that is huge. Like, that is a massive drop.
Oh yeah.
Like.
Oh yeah. I mean, he dropped like 10%. He literally dropped like. Yeah, he literally dropped 10%. He's moved into the top 100 now. He's gonna be tied for 74th, moving up from 133. So good move up for him. Well done to Carson.
And I'm curious to see how Harsha deals with the rest of these scrambles, because apparently they're sub-2able.
That looked a lot more fluid, 2-5-2, but I feel like there was just more moves. And man, it's just tough for an event like this, because even if you have like 3 more moves, that's going to add so much more time to your solve overall. We're talking like half a second difference here.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the margins for error on these sprint events is significantly smaller, and you need to be very, very precise to get your best possible situations here. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think maybe there was a slight wrong alg done here. That's what it looked like to me. He looked like he did something, and then he had to insert the edge in a different way because the cube wasn't solved.
Interesting. Perhaps. Well, hopefully he can recover from that pseudo mistake, if a mistake happened at all. It does look like there's a little bit of a block here. Maybe you can take advantage of that. 3 tips scramble though. He's got the solve tip on top. That's interesting. The execution not quite there. 2.97. He's gonna end up with mid to average, it looks like. Yeah, 241 between 241 and 258 for Harsha.
And it looked like this was a very good solution. Just a pretty sizable lockup there that you definitely don't want to see. But it is only second round, right? We have another round going forward, and on the bright side, BPA definitely doable for him.
Yes, most certainly. Cube quickly scrambled. It's brought to his table. This one is only 2 tips. Looks like there's like maybe some blocks, although some of them do look a little fake actually. He sat a long time on that orientation. Looks like he ended up BPAing 2.41. Relatively smooth execution there. I mean, this looked like the best solution to me of the 5 that he's done.
Yeah, I feel like it's very high TBS on that solution. There was a decent amount of moves, but just got him done quickly. That's all you can really ask for, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. That's really about it. And that was just group one of Pyraminx here. We saw Harsha and Carson there. I believe we're going to see the other four top solvers. Wait, let me see if I can remember. We got Luke Van Lanningham, Steven Winteringham, Luke Garrett, and John Gaynor. There we go. I did it.
Yes.
So we're going to see them coming up next. But before that, we are going to cut to a quick ad break while we get the next group started.
Hey, we're your Skewb shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup speed cubes. Our team of experts will dial in your speed cube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
So where's everyone off to?
Ha! Bones, you're up next.
Bones is off chasing a good time, just like everyone else hopping on a Denago e-bike.
What about our game, bro?
Experience riding in a whole new way.
How new are we talking? Because I'm here for the exercise.
Well, there's a Denago bike for all levels. Increase the electric pedal assist to ride as casual as you want without breaking a sweat, or turn it down to make those legs burn. Go to Denago.com to check out our bikes and find your local Denago dealer.
Welcome back, everyone. I do want to make a correction. Someone in the chat pointed this out. Thank you for correcting my mistake. Luke Garrett, unfortunately, did DNF his round 1 Pyraminx, so we will not be seeing him in round 2. That has to be one of the first rounds he's missed in a while, because he's the type of guy to make every round at a competition he goes to. So, little uncharacteristic from him, unfortunately. But we will definitely be seeing some more fast solvers coming up.
Happens to the best of us, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the margins are pretty tight, right? Because interestingly, if you're off by a tip and you're off by like a U move, right? That's actually a DNF. Even though you can kind of solve it with just one move if you hold the tip still and hold the rest of the base still. That is a DNF penalty because we count moves based on outer block turns. So if you can move an R move would work, R2 would work, R prime obviously would work. You can also do kind of a wider move of that. So if you on 4x4 and bigger cubes, if you were to do RW, that would also count as just a single move. Here, yeah, unfortunately at the bottom you can see Luke Garrett 250 DNF 251 DNF 207. I mean, he very solidly would have made this round, and he actually would have probably been really close to the top of the leaderboard here, considering Luke Van Lanningham round 1. He got 2.43 average. So, yeah, just a little unfortunate from him. So, yeah, we will not be seeing him in this round. I guess it gives him more time to practice for upcoming rounds, Skewb and Square One. So, not too bad otherwise. I'm sure he isn't too miffed by it, right? He's probably got a competition in another week anyway.
Yeah, he attends a lot of comps. I don't think and Pyrrha is definitely one of his better ranked events. He is sub 2. But it's not some, I don't think he's taken on the alternate L4E stuff like that or anything. I think he just does what he needs to do to get by, and I think he enjoys just having another event to compete in.
I mean, which is perfectly fair. Look, if you're Luke Garrett, you're world class in so many events, right? You can almost only certainly pick and choose. All right, here we go. Pyraminx round 2 is getting started here. Here's scramble number 1. And man, this is looking particularly blocky.
I was gonna say I don't know Pyrrha that much, but this looks pretty decent.
4.48 is the solve here.
Wish I could actually turn Pyraminx.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, look at there's a couple blocks here, only 2 tips, so not too bad. That's about average. And it looks like this ended up just being a soon to solve the last 3 edges there. So not bad overall.
And this is John Gaynor that I was mentioning earlier.
All right, for sure. Yeah, again on that
and he's
exact
still-
same scramble.
doesn't seem too bad with
3.19.
that.
Yeah, it did seem like a lot of moves for a scramble that like had a lot of blocks. It looks like he ended up kind of breaking some of those blocks to make other ones. And 319.
Could we have you judge over there on that side?
Yeah, not bad. This is okay.
Something that I always find interesting is cubers who cube with rings on. I don't understand it. I feel like it's gotta hinder your turning to a certain degree.
I feel
But,
like if you
people
always have the ring on, then is that like, then it might be detrimental to take it off. No.
12 seconds.
Potential. Maybe it'll be good if you take it off.
But I guess
I couldn't tell you.
I guess it would be kind of. It definitely changes like. It has to change the way your fingers move, almost certainly, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've worn rings while cubing, and like some of them are fine, but it's very like at very like stretched positions. Your finger, I feel like it definitely can influence it.
Here we go, 3.18 from this competitor.
And that was L4E that we saw there.
Yeah.
John Gaynor, 15.
Good looking solution. We can hear Harsha call up John now for his second solve. 3.19, perhaps not the best result in scramble number 1. Going on to scramble 2.
And he seems to just be saying I'm ready very quickly on all of these solves. He told me that's something he started doing nowadays.
That's definitely a strat to not overthink, huh? Not sure if it panned out for him here. 3.75 is the result, but that scramble did not look particularly good. It did not look like there were like even 2 colors that were matched up at all.
And even still, you can count a 3 point. The 3.1 at the very least will be counting if he gets a solve under that. You can count a 3.1 and be just fine getting into finals.
3.34. Is this Luke Van Lanningham? The glasses seem right. The hair is cut from what I remember.
I could not tell you, unfortunately.
We're guessing around a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we are not seeing like the same level of solutions that we saw in Group 1. And part of that is just because Carson kind of just went off, to be honest.
Yeah.
But also like that first scramble did look like it had something there, but it looks like the competitors were not able to capitalize on it, unfortunately. And then that second one just looks ugly, so...
Yeah, it doesn't... yeah, Scramble 1 looked fine, but so far I don't think we're seeing anything that looks too great in this set. Especially for like a scramble-dependent event or sprint event like Pyraminx, scrambles are much more important.
4-1-1. I think this competitor looked kind of jazzed about that result, actually. Looked pretty good to me.
Yeah,
at
I was going to
least.
say, they looked pretty happy about it, but they look like they have pretty good turning. Like, from what I'm seeing, like, this is pretty good turning. Well, maybe they are capable of slightly better than 4.1 if they want to pursue Pyraminx. I think that could be their calling.
Yeah, for sure. They can definitely push for it. It might just also be like, you know, at home, like you get certain results, right? But it's tough sometimes to translate those over to the competition because no matter what you do, it's definitely different when you sit down in front of the timer, in front of the judge, and you know you have the cube cover there. Something is definitely different no matter how much you practice. So carrying that over, I think, is a really, really tough skill. Even for the top level competitors, I think it's not trivial at all.
Yeah, most definitely.
John Gaynor now on solve number 3, 4.10. It doesn't really look like he was able to get anything going there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't... You know, this is definitely different than his first round average, right? First round we saw a 2.5 average, maybe. And... Okay, 182. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, there we go. That's just pulled out of there.
I think that's the best solve we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think so.
Carson
Because
got like a
Carson,
like a 183 or something like that.
there you go. Yeah, so just edging it out. Looks like it was a good solution. Now I'm not sure how far they are in there. So I'm not sure which scramble it was. They may be ahead on a scramble that we just haven't seen yet. And that one is a particularly good solution, or they just found a good solution. It's very
That's
possible. What do you think is like the mindset about going into like these scramble based events? Do you think it's kind of cope to just say like, oh, the scrambles were bad, therefore I did bad? Or do you think like the top competitors are like, well, even if the scramble is bad, I definitely have like some standard that I have to meet?
Well, that's what separates the top level solvers from the not so top level solvers, is that the bad scrambles don't affect them as much, right? So that's why if you look at like Zane in 2x2, right, he knows so many algs, right? So the scrambles that are bad for some people who maybe only do EG become not nearly as bad whenever you know like LS, TCLL, LTC, like there's so many
Alphabet
stuff now.
Zoo.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's just insane. But yeah, that's kind of what differentiates them, is that they're able to mitigate the variance in these events.
I think that's a really tough skill to do. To be like to literally look face first into a bad scramble, as John Garrett gets a very solid 2.11. To basically stare directly into a bad scramble and be like, yeah, you know what? Like, it doesn't matter that the scramble is bad. I'm still gonna do it. This one actually looked really interesting because it looked like a top first solve, which I haven't heard of since like 2016 or something. Like, that's crazy. I didn't know people still did that.
So, Louisiana state record holder for Pyraminx, Seth Talbot, still uses top first. So the best Pyraminxer in my nation, in my area, uses top first. So I'm slightly familiar, but I was wondering why it looked like John was rotating much more than the other competitors.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Luke. Okay, I was right. 2-0-0. It looked like actually the first yellow side looks like it had a good start. Can't be too miffed about two flat solve. Let's see what they did here. Yeah, actually solving the blue bottom first before going into L4E. Otherwise, looking pretty good.
Yeah, it looked like just very solid execution. You know, pretty good TPS and functional enough solution. That's all you can really ask for.
Now this, I believe, is Lucy Grace Bryson, who is one of the fastest Mega Mixers in the world. I think if she doesn't have the female... Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah, she's a female.
She took it
North American average.
She took it from Alina Zhu, actually, someone from China who moved to Texas. I actually got the chance to meet Alina at a competition, and like her first competition she ever competed in, she got F and AR, and I was like, who are you, what? And then she told me she was actually on the same team as Yihang, or like one of the Speed Aces teams or something along those lines. The teams over there are huge, so yeah, that was an interesting little tidbit that I had.
Yeah, pretty cool. Well, yeah, Lucy's been doing great stuff, so glad we were able to see her on the stream today. All right, John now looks like he is locked into a 3 average. Can he make it a low 3? Looks like he can do so. 3.11. He's not going to end up counting 410 after all. 3.35. I mean, maybe not his best work, but it doesn't look like he's particularly miffed by this average whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, it's serviceable enough. You know, the round wasn't a total catastrophe, and you're getting into finals. So hopefully you can get another average there.
Yeah, hopefully you get 5 scrambles with 0 tips. I think getting 0 tips is exceptionally rare, right? It's like 1 in 81 probably to get 0 tips on any given solve. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because each tip has 3.
Sure.
Yeah. It should be 1 in 81. So yeah, 0 tips is exceptionally rare.
Yeah.
All right, Luke's kind of like setting his mind up here. Yeah, because he's going to go into solve 4, and this is going to kind of set the tone for like the overall average, right? Like once you do solve 4, it sets like your range. Like there's something that you literally can't do better than and something that you can't do worse than. So it's really important to kind of lock in here, especially since he does have that 3 sitting around. He's looking around a lot, trying to find a good solution here. What is he gonna end up doing?
Head shake.
Looks like he's picked
on the timer
red.
part.
Red bottom 384. That's not going to be it. He is going to be counting 334, 239, 309 BPA, WPA. So even though he ended up getting 182 and 2 flat, looks like he might not be able to take full advantage of that, unfortunately.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes you just, it's tough, man. You get one bad solve, you get another one, and it's counting, you know. But still, I think WPA here is, so from what we've seen, it's locked.
Yeah, it
third.
should be. It should be. Let me see how many people advance into finals here. 16 people are going to advance into finals, right? And if you take a look at the psych sheet, top 16 is 410. So, you know, it shouldn't be too. And the psych sheet is the list of all of people's and their PRs, right? And of course, people can break their PRs like Carson did earlier, but it still gives you like a good overall sense, right? Like if you're gonna get a 3, then you're probably gonna make finals. You don't need to think about it too much. Yeah. So you know, just time to move on and see what finals is, and just pull up in finals. I guess this is something interesting that I think you might have a good interesting perspective on. You know, Luke is like one of the top Pyraminx solvers in the world, right? He's like top 50. As someone who is also like extremely like good, like former top 10, right? In 3x3, how do you come back after like kind of like a middling average, but you still made the next round?
I mean, yeah, it's just you try to be objective about it, right? If you get a middling average, my mindset has shifted to figuring out like why did I get that, right? And trying to figure out causes and then address the issues. So if it was I didn't find good solutions, I will try to inspect better. And part of that is like sometimes out of your control, right? It's scramble dependent, whatever. But sometimes it's like this is something that you feasibly should see. Sometimes it's I found the right solution, but my execution was bad. So make sure I'm locked in, and you know that's what I was saying before. Like there's cues that you can give yourself before you solve, and I tell people this all the time. Like, so you know they can change depending on the day or whatever. But yeah, I mean you take it, and with someone like Luke, he's been to so many comps, and he has instances to have very good results, but it also gives him the opportunity to have not so good results, and I think he's definitely capable of coming back from that. I don't think it's too big of a deal.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of the thing with scramble-based events, right? Because it's just high variance. You're gonna get some sets of scrambles that are just really, really good, way better than others, but you're also just as likely to get scrambles that are just really bad. And maybe the set was just not one that particularly suited his solving styles. Like we saw John use that top first, right? And so if you're just not even going to consider a top first solution, then those scrambles that are good for that, but not good for a layer by layer or an L4E method are just eliminated for you. And that's just kind of something that happens. And we'll see how he does in finals, which is coming up soon. I think we have one more group of Pyraminx that we will bring to you, but first, we are going to go into a quick commercial break.
Cubing Life Academy aims to support the next generation of cubers through professional courses and coaching, as well as top cubers by fairly compensating them for sharing their skills. Use code SpeedCubingTV for 5% off any purchases at Cubing Life Academy.
This is Swoop Timmy here with the new Max Park Cuber from Rubik. This is a limited edition cube. Believe me, supplies are very, very limited. And Max is donating 100% of proceeds to nonprofit autism support groups. This cube is exclusively only on Amazon using the link below. This is a great cube to add to your collection, and you'll be help supporting autism awareness. Thank you for your support.
Welcome back to Swoop and Solve Oxford 2024, everyone. Manu Singhal, Dylan Miller on the mic here. We're watching Pyraminx Round 2 action. We just watched Group 2. I believe we're going to go into Group 3 now, where we're going to see a couple more faces. Now, the big thing that we're talking about, the big story of this competition is Luke Garrett versus Luke Griesser. Interestingly, Luke Griesser was actually not even on like the site sheet to begin with. Because they had on-the-spot registration, he was able to register on-site, and we can bring you this exciting format. I think that's really interesting. On-spot registration, I know helps a lot of people. Where I kind of want to lead this conversation towards is recently the WCA has been pushing towards some things about like professionalism and trying to change some of the ways that competitions are done. Those things include things like, perhaps restricting the usage of private residences and things like that. Dylan, what are your thoughts on this as someone who, you compete a good amount, but I know you've mentioned to me that like you live in an area where there really aren't that many competitions to begin with. So I'm curious what your perspective is.
Yeah, I'm all for any comp by any means, right? Especially for events like FMC or whatever, private residences comps, like those definitely make a lot of sense. I know there was like some changes that happened because they wanted more professionalism for comps, and I think that's very important, right? We need a baseline level of professionalism for these competitions. But we were actually planning on hosting a cruise competition right before the everything kind of happened, and that wasn't allowed anymore. And it would have been nice to maybe have done that. It would have been a cool little experience. Yihan got his WR, his 470. No, whatever WR 448 he got on the cruise ship. So I wanted to have my own little cruise comp experience, and any rounds are great for me, right? The closest region to me is the south, so I mean I'm in the south. I have to go to Texas, and that's at least a 5-hour drive to Houston, and they don't really have that many comps. It's normally 8 hours to Dallas, or I'm like going into the southeast, so I'm pretty isolated. So like whatever I can do to get a comp, man, like just give me a comp. It's not I'm not too particular.
Yeah, I think this is something that we've recently been talking about more also because Maddie brought it up when he just barely missed NAR last week. I guess it was last week, in DFW.
Yeah.
He would have gotten 4.85, but because he plus 2'd, he ended up getting like 530 or something instead. And it's just like he needs more rounds. I mean, clearly he lives in Hawaii, right? And like we've done a lot of work with like West Coast Cubing and other organizations to like bring more comps to Hawaii. Hawaii, I think, has like 8 comps a year now, which is like 8 more than they used to have. But for someone like Maddie, it also comes down to like scrambles and to some extent, right? Like the more scrambles that he can see, the better chance he has at getting like a really good single or a really good average. And for that means he has to travel all the way to the mainland. So it's certainly going to be very interesting if that does get implemented. And from my perspective, I guess I come from a different era. Like I love the private residence comps. I think they're really, really fun. They're a great way to like kind of like get together with everyone, have a competition. But at the same time, it's just a vibe session in some senses, right? Like you just get together with everyone in a way that's different from a usual competition. There's a lot of camaraderie, I feel. And that stuff, I think the WCA is going to sorely miss if we end up moving away from private competitions. Well, we're going to move away from this little yap session. Hope you all enjoyed that. We're going to actually go ahead and do Skewb now. Skewb round 2 is going on. Skewb is a very interesting puzzle. It looks like it should work like a Pyraminx where like you turn the tips and it's just like, okay, well, this is dumb. Like all I'm doing is just turning the tips. Like it's a really simple puzzle. You actually turn like half of the Skewb at the same time and it like cuts in like a really weird way. It's definitely like one of the black sheep of the WCA events in my opinion.
Yeah, if you hand like a Skewb to a non-cuber, most of the time like they can't even turn it. Like they can't even get a turn done because they don't.
They just drop it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense. So
without fail, like, I think it ends up on the floor.
I'm not a big Skewb guy, but Skewb is kind of like one of my dark horse favorite events, dude. Like it's.
Whoa! All right, wait. Let's riff on that. Tell me why.
Yeah. So like the turning of Skewb is so specified to itself, right? Like there's no other event that has like its own turning dependency. Like Pyrrha, sure, but like it's kind of converged onto 3x3 turning. Clock, we don't think about clock. Skewb though, you know, there's like, and especially with like in S Alex that are, so that's like non-sledge case Alex. Sledge is like the traditional thing everyone does. You do like the Polish sledge. It's like the standard finger trick that everyone does. But in S Alex, and especially like, you have to create your own turning style, and it's super interesting because like they'll be doing. I remember I saw Drew Brads do like a rotationless Skewb U-turn back in the day, and I was like, that's insane.
Oh, whoa.
And that's kind of like where a
That's
lot of
wild.
stuff kind of shifted to. And yeah, it's interesting to see like how the meta for Skewb turning has kind of shifted and converged onto something like very unique to itself.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you know we all like clown on Skewb a little bit, but it's actually been pretty interesting to watch at a high level. I'm going back to NAC, right? I'm going back to Dominic Radici, like getting I think WR3 average in finals against like a pretty stacked field. It was WR2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't remember if it was WR3 by 0.01 or if it was WR2 by 0.01. So yeah. I mean that's amazing. Like you had the former world record holder and current world record holder like Zayn Kanani and Carter Kukala in that field. You had a bunch of like really solid like all rounders there also. That was amazing to watch. It was also really fun watching Skewb at Euros. I was there in person. I was actually able to see Carter. He was on an amazing start. Unfortunately, was not able to finish and get the WR average. It's actually been really interesting to watch Skewb at the highest level. So hope we can see some cool stuff like that today too.
Yeah, definitely. And Dom is from my region, so I love to see him do well. He's from Tennessee, but whatever. I see him enough.
Dominic is like turning into like one of my like favorite cubers. He's getting that aura about him, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's building that aura.
he's
He's building a personal brand.
He's pretty young too. I think he's only 15, and he's also like, you know, really good at 3x3. And you don't really see that much overlap between good 3x3ers and good Skewbers, right? Like you were talking about, you see 3x3 in Squan, you see 3 in Pyrrha to a lesser extent, but 3 in Skewb, you don't really see that.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to what you were saying. The turning is just very different.
Yeah,
across the two events. So as we were like continuing with Group 1 here, I did want to talk about who we're going to be looking at in particular and who we're going to be tracking. We're going to be looking at Luke Van Lanningham again. He's WR32, 2.20 average. That's actually interesting because that was Carson Claude's previous Pyrrha average. So perhaps Luke is going to get a 2 flat as well. Mason Langenfurter, also, he's a delegate from Ohio. 2.62, that's good for WR106. And then Luke Garrett is in 3rd place on the psych sheet, 3.00. I know we previously talked about the round 1 results. I'm going to recap those very briefly here. Luke Van Lanningham got first, 2.62 average. Pretty close, not too bad. Jacob Bennett actually got second with 4.09, and Mason Langenfurter 4.17. These are all names we're going to be watching out for.
I think, look, people don't really talk about Jacob Bennett. I went out to an Ohio competition in 2023 because it had 3 rounds of Pyraminx, and I actually met Luke G and
3 rounds.
Both Luke G's were there. Yeah, it was goated. I saw Luke Griesser and Luke Garrett there, and that was the first time I met Jacob, and he was using a GTS 3, and I was like, that's interesting. And then he was like sub 8, and I was like, that's interesting. And then he is I think the best all-arounder, or like the second best all-arounder that's a 2023 ID. He's only 2023 ID. I don't think you know that. Like he's very like new, and he's improving at all events very quickly. Like I really enjoy seeing him do well because I was like, this kid is gonna be pretty good. And yeah, he is, and like pretty much anything he wants to practice, so that's cool.
No, I'm finding this out right now because I have, I thought we might as well go over his profile. Yeah, you were correct. 2023 ID. He is top 1,000 in every event he's competed in except Pyraminx, where he's 1,056. I think we can forgive him for that one.
Yeah,
that's pretty incredible. He's also top 100 in Square 1, so we're gonna see him later today on that as well. That is quite remarkable. So for someone who's like just started competing, To get that good that fast, very, very impressive.
I don't know if you saw, he also has a 4 single. I think he had the fastest single for my 2023.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I completely looked that over. Yes, 4.94 WR196 single.
Yeah.
That's crazy that 4.94 is
That's crazy.
WR196.
That is crazy.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I assume, I bet after this weekend in Asian Champs, that's also going to get updated. That it might not even be top 200 anymore.
Dude,
That's wild.
The competition
that's wild.
over there is insane. Like, they're just cranking out 3x3 solvers like crazy. I don't even
Yeah,
understand.
I was mentioning this earlier to Marinick and some of the other guys. Like, this weekend is a pretty stacked, like oddly stacked weekend in cubing. Like, you have like the top solvers like are all active, like in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not against each other, right? Like we saw Max competing yesterday. We have both Luke G's competing today, and then we have like the rest of the top 10 for 3x3 competing in Asia. Dude, you were competing this weekend too. So like, there's so many top solvers. This was a stacked weekend.
Yeah, it was insane. So, we'll definitely, and yeah, Yang got WR this weekend. So.
Yeah, exactly. And man, that was a crazy WR, one that he ended up having to clutch out.
Yeah, it's always he always does it. I don't understand.
He's just built different, I guess. Here's Harsha now on the stream. Harsha, I'm also learning, was an organizer for this competition. That's why you could see him in the background, like kind of like shepherding people around. He had the microphone, calling up groups. Good to see. A lot of organizers do a lot of work for competitions, and then they don't always get the recognition that they deserve. So you can see he's even like, looks like he's like handling something right now as he's competing. So hats off to him for that.
Yeah. And I know we talked about how Ohio's had so many competitions. He's also a large part of that, right? He's been one of the main organizers in the region, and of course, this is also also partially due to the Ohio delegates themselves who are willing to pump out these comps like crazy. But you need willing organizers who are able to secure venues and do all that stuff, and Harsh has been a big part of that as well.
Yep. I mean, as a delegate, I get asked all the time, like, I want to have a competition. What do I do? I'm like, okay, well, the very first thing is you need to find a venue. So they're like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, my school, we can just use my school. I'm like, great. Like, go talk to your principal. They're like, oh, I have to talk to the principal? It's like, yes, in order to get a venue, you need to do a lot of like grown-up things, right? You need to like, talk to people. You need to like set dates. You need to like email people. You got to go do back and forth. You got to figure out scheduling. Sometimes organizers, you got to figure out budgetary stuff too. It's a lot of work. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that I think doesn't always get seen. So yeah, it's good to see. I mean, I remember when I started in 2013, I went to New Albany 2013, which was the only competition I think Ohio had that entire year. I had to go to Michigan to get my other competition for that year. So it's great to see that there's just more cubing happening overall.
Yeah, most definitely. And I was in the same position where when I started, as we unfortunately see a DNF here.
Yeah, that's
my first competition. I didn't even, there had never been a competition in my state when I started, so obviously I had to drive to outside my region and go to Austin to attend, which was, I'm glad that every region feels like it's getting significantly more rounds. Like you said, Hawaii is getting more rounds. Even my state, we had a decent amount of rounds this year, which was much appreciated on my behalf. And yeah, just the underserved region, even like Mississippi, just Arkansas has had a few comps as well. Just the smaller.
Mississippi is having a state champs this year, right?
Yes, we are. It is being organized by the Louisiana delegate because Mississippi does not have one. But yeah, shout out RJ. He is hosting that right off the Louisiana border. It's only 2 hours, so that's great.
Awesome. Yeah, good to see. Here's Harsha again. I've kind of lost track on which solve number this is. I think this is the third time we've seen him. 831. I don't think he particularly minds the solve one way or the other. Yeah, I mean, looking on the scorecard, it looks like that's actually one of the last solves that he's done. That actually might just be... Yeah, that was the last solve. Looks like he took his cube too.
Yeah, looks like there was a slight execution error here. He did a sledge and then undid it and then did a hedge to force the better pure pie case. which I actually got a sub 2 official Skewb single with 3 moves to Pure Pie, so not trying to,
Whoa.
flex.
All right. Maybe this is the next event. The next top player moment for Dylan Miller is going to be. It's not going to be Pyraminx. It's not going to be 3x3. It's
No.
going to be.
No.
It's going to be Skewb.
Yeah,
man.
for sure. It's of course. I told
All right.
I told you Skewb's one of my favorites.
That's wild. I actually never in like 100 years would have pegged you as like the Skewb dark horse. Like that's crazy.
I mean,
that's absolutely nuts.
Dom has kind of converted me, dude. I love watching him solve. Also, like the Skewb meta is like evolving too. Because when it was just like do sledge hedge, it's kind of meh. But when it's like, oh yeah, I did this like pseudo layer L in S case, whatever. Like that's sick.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Look, when events evolve beyond just like what their original like impression is, like clock, right? Everyone hated on clock. Yeah, like it had like the same method. We got the cheat clock. That obviously made things a lot better. And now the advent of 7 simul and all of its like spin-off methods, the 7 simul flip, like pseudo 7 simul stuff. There's also like recent stuff I've seen about like making 7 simul like more and more optimal. That's crazy. We've seen a huge growth of that this year as well. So I think it's cool. Like the communities are just all evolving and everyone is having more fun, right? I guess that's really what you can ask for in the end. Well, I hope the viewers, you've been having a lot of fun with the stream so far. We're going to cut to a quick ad break before I think we get started with our finals block of Swoop In and Solve Oxford 2024. Stay tuned.
Hey, we're Speedcube Shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup Speedcubes. Our team of experts will dial in your Speedcube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
So where's everyone off to?
Ha! Bones, you're up next.
Bones is off chasing a good time, just like everyone else hopping on a Denago e-bike.
What about our game, bro?
Experience riding in a whole new way.
How new are we talking? Because I'm here for the exercise.
Well, there's a Denago bike for all levels. Increase the electric pedal assist to ride as casual as you want without breaking a sweat, or turn it down to make those legs burn. Go to Denago.com to check out our bikes and find your local Denago dealer.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Speedcubing TV broadcasting Swoop In and Solve Oxford 2024. We are watching Skewb finals right now. Interestingly, actually, what we just watched was Skewb finals, but it was actually Group 1 of Skewb finals. Looks like what they're doing, interestingly, is breaking it up into 2 groups because it looks like there are actually quite a number of people in Skewb finals as Luke Garrett is going to get situated here. And so when you have a situation like this where Skewb is also a scramble-dependent event, if you have like finals and you want to run them in 2 groups, you want to make sure that everyone who has a chance of podiuming gets the same scrambles. What you really don't want happening is like you have 2 different fast people of like the same caliber who could podium, get 2 different scrambles, and then the difficulty of the scramble set end up determining their matchup. You want to leave it up to the ability of the competitors. So Luke Garrett going to start off with 401. Didn't look like he was particularly happy about that, as Carson is going to pull up right next to him.
Watch me get a 3. Watch me get a 3. Trust me. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Luke has like a low 3 official average as well, so definitely capable of slightly better.
Carson is backing himself to get a 3. Looks like it's not going to pan out for that in this case. 4.83. He said if he got a U from, he would have gotten it. That sounds like a little bit of cope to me, but I do like the confidence, I must say.
No, I'm the same way. If I don't get a U perm on Skewb, I'm crashing out. I gotta get my U perm, bro.
It's just all or nothing, man. Oh man, you're just
U perm
fishing
is
for-
like
fishing for the luck.
it's like the 2 flip of Skewb. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, that is true. It is pretty satisfying to execute, that's for sure. As we watch a replay of Luke Garrett's solve there, looks like they're really. Yeah, we're just gonna wait to get some more people up onto the stream here. As we do have some data results coming in, so we might as well go over those right now. Right now we have Emery McFeeder in first, 657 average. Trenton Kuzik 7.29. Chase Farrell 7.79. I would expect these to change. Obviously, it looks like we are getting, as Luke Van Lanningham is going to pull up to the station now. You're going to expect these things to move around. So, Luke is really dialed in onto this one specific orientation. Looks like for good reason. Found a good solution, 2.44. Maybe not the happiest with it, it seems, from the facial expression, but that is definitely the best solve that we have seen on the stream so far.
and interestingly enough, he's using a wingy Skewb. I feel like
I was gonna
I've
say,
seen
yeah.
the GAN Skewb has dominated the Skewb solver market. My experience.
Yeah, I gave away my wingy to some kid because I hate the wingy. Every time I end up just borrowing a GAN from my friend anyway, right? So I'm just like, this is no point. You're going to have more fun with this than I will. It looks like just next to Luke, there was Mason Langnerfurter. He got 402 single. He started his Skewb finals journey off. Luke Garrett on his second solve, 2.98. Looked pretty solid. Looks like he just paused a little bit there for what may have been an NS.
I was gonna say, I don't think normally when you see a pause like that, you don't normally see a super clean finish. Like, in my experience, when you have good flow, like, it just helps overall with everything. Whereas, if you get a pause, it typically leads to more pauses later on, or like a lockup or something, right? When you flow into it really well, I feel like it's like an object in motion stays in motion, right? If you're flowing, you're gonna keep flowing, generally. But if you start kind of choppy, like, it's hard to get a very clean finish off that.
That's interesting. You think so? So you think so for also these like short events? Because I definitely experienced that for Megaminx. Man, if my F2L is bad, it doesn't matter. Like the rest of the solve could be a skip. I'm still gonna get like 110 or something.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like this was a pretty decent scramble here. It's like Luke found a very good solution here. It was just maybe there was a cancel there. I really could not tell you.
Yeah, it's tough to see because Skewb is like now I'm not gonna say this in an insulting way. It's a simple puzzle in the sense that like there just aren't that many states. I believe God's number for Skewb is the same as 2x2. I believe it's 11. So what that means is that any scramble sequence that you get, you can solve in 11 moves. What that ends up looking like, I think, at the highest level is there are a lot of cancellations that happen from one algorithm to the next. So it can be a little bit hard to tell. The other thing I wanted to point out there is I thought the placement of where Luke put the cube relative to the timer was interesting. He didn't put it like directly in the center as like I think the majority of people do. He actually put it pretty far off to the left to the point where I want to say it was like above like the left timer pad. That's really interesting. Do you have any read on that?
No, maybe he just put it there. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be just be a Skewb thing also.
There's potentially a world where like maybe you want to have a quicker grab with your left hand and then you like bring your right hand in at an alternate grip maybe to like get into like a sledge or something easier maybe. But other than that, I can't really think of any other reason besides just potentially it just happening.
Yeah, I mean, certainly interesting. Maybe it's like one of those things that's like, it's like acquired over time. It's like, okay, never mind. Now I'm going to go into full nerd. It's like machine learned, you know? It's like you don't know why you do this, but you just know that like if you do this, you get better times, and therefore you just naturally do it more and more and more. Maybe it's something like that. In which case, look, it works for him, right? He's gotten the 2 best singles that we've seen in the entire round so far. So he should keep doing what he's doing. What do you
See if he
see
does
here,
that
Dylan?
again on
Anything
this one.
particularly good?
I don't see any corners solve the pieces, so I have no idea. But it seems like
Yeah.
he turned well, and it seemed like there was a decent amount of moves there, but still did it in a pretty decent time.
Yeah,
And this
2.86.
is-
I mean,
This is what I mean, man. Look at the finger tricks here. These are like so obscure, right? And like even like there's kind of a finger trick that looks like a U prime on 3x3, but it's like you're doing like a F prime on your Skewb. I always think it's so cool, especially in slow mo. You can appreciate it more.
that's a good point. Yeah, great work by the replay team to bring us all these replays in a very, very timely manner. They've been very clean with it. So, and just in general, shout out to the production team in Michigan for getting us all this set up. Luke Garrett now solve number 3. He's got 401, 298. Can he follow that up with another 2 perhaps?
Oh, good turning.
Good turning, but man, that big pause. What was he recognizing there?
Someone in chat said he did an NS on solve 2, so potentially he's recognizing
Okay.
NS or just like maybe just the advanced case. But it seemed like he did. It wasn't as much of a pause as maybe it was like a rotation to the wrong spot, or like maybe he just rotated and had to rotate back because he wasn't in the correct position to do the out.
Okay, yeah, very, very possible. Rotations are also, I feel like, pretty weird on Skewb because when you rotate, you don't always end up in like a good grip that you can continue to do. Like you can like go in and like do a sledge, for example. So
Yeah, for sure.
Skewb in the center of the mat this time for Luke.
Yes.
Solve number 4. 322. That's the worst solve we've seen so far. That'll populate his BPA, WPA. We're gonna see what like. Okay, well, it's already populated before I could calculate it. 2.46, 2.84. Who would have thought the computer would have been faster at calculating than humans? But there you go. He's gonna end up with like a mid to average. And from what it looks like it's kind of like his round to lose. It doesn't look like the other competitors are getting anything particularly good. Luke Garrett, I guess, has a chance to get onto the podium. We haven't seen much of Mason solving. We only saw a 1-4 from him. Maybe he has a chance as well.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, one solve doesn't really do the average justice. It could literally be anything, right? So maybe he's on pace for sub 2. We don't even know.
Yeah, very, very possible. Luke Garrett now is sitting down on the stream station, the stream stage, if you will, at the desk, ready to go to work. Warm himself up a little bit. A couple of MU, look like an H-perm to me. That yellow side looks like it might have a chance. Oh, but those corners. Well, 1 move to solve that corner, 2 moves to solve 2 corners. Actually, 3 moves to solve all of yellow. So, it looks like he elected for different solution altogether. Did he corner twist? Did he manually corner twist?
So.
It was a little bit hard to tell from the angle that we had. We can maybe take a look at that on the replay. Luke Van Lanningham now. Solve number 5. This was some good looking. That was good looking execution. But yeah, it was interesting to see him like.
Sledges.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him. Yeah, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. Yep. Interesting to see him having to like re-grip afterwards to do the sledge.
Yeah.
He did corner twist.
Okay. So that's on me. I didn't see that. I used to talk to Riley Norrid when the Skewb meta was just Lawrence here as advanced, and there was like a few, and he was like one of the better Skewb solvers, like former AR holder, and yeah, he did a few like interesting executions where you could do like 2 sledges at a time without needing to regrip, but once it's at 3, like you're locked into or at least 1 regrip.
Right, makes sense. Luke Garrett to round out his average here. He's locked into a mid to high 3. He's actually going to end up DNFing, it seems, from comparing the top angle and the front angle. This is going to end up being a DNF. Or sorry, it's going to be +2. What am I saying? That's not how Skewb works at all.
It's just one.
And it looks like he did the same solution as Luke Van Lanningham. He did the layer and then he gets the triple sledge. Sledge.
Yep. Except, yeah, just
Just forgets
unable
do
to
that,
execute the
that
last
last
one.
pre-move. Yeah, did not do the pre-move.
So he's going to end up getting the worst possible average, 3.94. This is really interesting, actually, because Mason Langdefurter and Dominic Brandy both got 3.94s. And it looks like Mason is actually going to beat Luke Garrett on the single. Luke got 2.98 best single. Mason got 2.85 best single, according to WCA Live. So looks like the podium is going to be Luke Van Lanningham, who just like kind of ran away with it in this case, like literally a second and a half better than everyone else. Then Mason Langdefurter and then Luke Garrett ended up coming down pretty close to the wire. And unfortunately, Dominic Brandy, that also means knocked off the podium based on single alone. That's kind of brutal.
So there was a 3-way tie at 394.
Yes.
Wow. That's
and then in who's going to end up getting 5th place, Evan Brown with 3.96. So actually, like, you know, second was actually extremely competitive here. Four competitors within 0.02 on average.
Yeah, difference between second and 5th is 0.02. That's crazy.
So unbelievably tight here in Oxford, Ohio for this one. I believe we're going to bring you Square One as the next final, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. As we show you the live ranking here, we are going to end up going to commercial break so that we have some time for all the competitors to bring their cubes up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
Cubing Life Academy aims to support the next generation of cubers through professional courses and coaching, as well as top cubers by fairly compensating them for sharing their skills. Use code SpeedCubingTV for 5% off any purchases at Cubing Life Academy.
This is Swoop Timmy here with the new Max Park Cuber from Rubik. This is a limited edition cube. Believe me, supplies are very, very limited. And Max is donating 100% of proceeds to nonprofit autism support groups. This cube is exclusively only on Amazon using the link below. This is a great cube to add to your collection and you'll be help supporting autism awareness. Thank you for your support.
Welcome back, everyone. Swoop and Insolve Oxford is going to get started with our Square One finals here. Square One is going to be pretty fun to see. Jacob Bennett is on top, and the cuber to watch at the moment, top 100 in the world. That'll be pretty cool. We're going to see a couple of competitors also competing for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place spots. In round 1, Alex Bronsdorf, 10.05, that's a PR average for them. Ended up getting 2nd place over Luke Garrett, who got 3rd with 11.39, and then just outside, Luke Griesser is going to be knocking on the door. He got a 12.12 average in round 1. Let's see if he can improve that a little bit relative to the rest of the field in order to advance into that podium position. Dylan, what are we going to see here in Square One? I feel like everyone at this level, all the top competitors at least, are going to be using at least CSP to some capability yet, right?
Yeah. Definitely CSP for at least Jacob's going to be doing CSP. I also think Jacob has started learning some PBL or like taking some thoughts into that. I know I talk with him and Brian Johnson a lot, and Brian loves talking about his PBLs, and I think he's kind of given some of that wisdom to Jacob recently. So he's really seems to be dedicated to the event. So at the very least, we'll see some more advanced stuff from him, hopefully.
Okay, good to see. Luke Garrett has sat down at the table, it looks like. So he's going to get started with his average shortly, from what I can tell. Let's see what kind of advanced stuff he can pull out here. Now, Square One is a very interesting event. For those who don't know, Square One is a weird shape-shifting event. It's the only cube in the WCA that is shape-shifting. It literally changes its shape as you make turns to it. It has an interesting solving pattern where first you need to turn back into a cube, then orient both sides. So you want to get all white or in all black.
It's like between moves. I don't want to like.
Ah, okay. Looks like
Oh.
Luke Garrett here getting an unsliceable.
So you kinda,
When
you have to be able to. It's like it's not sliceable. So it's like halfway between a move. So
Okay.
you don't have to see it.
I believe you.
Yeah. Okay.
Luke coming in
And
clutch.
there-
He's
there
been
we
in plenty
go.
of comps, and he's helping his delegate not see the scramble and not have to deal with more work than needed.
Yeah, because this happens actually decently often. I actually had to end up giving myself an extra this weekend because I accidentally saw a scramble while I was helping a competitor out. And just for fairness purposes, it's like, okay, well, if I ended up seeing the scramble and I was competing and I was the only one available, then just give me an extra 2. But what ended up happening here, I can explain this a little bit also from a delegate perspective. On square 1, the cube needs to come in a sliceable state. That means you need to be able to do one of these like R2 like moves on the square 1. Sometimes what happens is in transport, the square 1 will get adjusted a little bit, and then it'll be like basically right in the middle where you don't know where the scramble state was supposed to put you. In that case, what we do is that we end up giving the competitors an extra, even though it's they basically just don't get to attempt it at all, which is a bit unfair. As we see Luke Griesser go here, locking up a little bit.
And parity.
As he's in his PBL step. Plus 2ing at the end, 1585. Just to finish my thought there, it is a little unfortunate that they basically just don't get to attempt the scramble at all, even if it was a really, really good scramble. That's why you'll see that there are these specialized covers that they're using. They're different than the normal cube covers that are used. That's to try and prevent the square 1 from making accidental turns or accidentally slicing in between. They're like 3D printed square 1 covers, which I think are pretty cool. I think they look pretty cool and a good solution that the cubing community has come up with to this problem. But it's certainly one that is very unique to square 1.
Yeah, and I was at a competition with Brian Johnson when he was on like very good like top 15 in the world pace, and he got an unsliceable state, and there was like a whole debacle around that. So it is quite unfortunate.
It is something that WRC and is definitely looking into how to remedy this for the top solvers. As Luke is going through, he looks like he has a pretty good solve. The start was really strong, but unfortunately, it looks like he was not able to complete it in the best of fashions. 12.11 in the end. Man, that's got to be disappointing here because just execution error. It looks like it came down to.
Yeah. Garrett's really funny, man. I like he definitely cares about every event, but when he does square 1 or like just anything and he kind of messes up, he just laughs it off. I always think his reactions are really funny.
That's good though. I feel like well, at least externally he's laughing it off. So, but I feel like it's good to be like, all right, mess this one up. Time to go on to the next one. Let's see what we can do here. We're having fun. I mean, look, he's probably looking forward to 3x3 most at the end of the day anyway, right? So this is just little side quests.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it looks like so we saw those solves from those two. No, Jacob Bennett here. I'm wondering if they are going to end up doing 2 groups for this as well. There are 16 competitors in this final. 16 is like a little bit large. I don't know how many stations they have here. Square 1 is like particularly difficult to do sometimes because your best solvers are also your best staff members, right? You need someone who can scramble square 1. Square 1 in particular is really annoying to scramble because if you mess up at all, like the cube is completely you can't continue with the rest of the scramble anymore. So you need to have someone who can scramble effectively, but also be able to fix their mistakes if and when they make mistakes. So it's a pretty tough event. So I guess what they're going to end up doing is kind of splitting the field a little bit into 2 groups. And that does mean that we are going to see different scrambles for the competitors, perhaps.
Ready.
Yep. And we did get confirmation from local Ohio Cuber that Jacob Bennett does in fact know full CSP and knows some PBL.
Interesting. That'll be fun to see.
Yep.
8 seconds.
We see he's tracing here. pretty good cube shape. And does he know the PBL? I do not think so. Slightly locky execution there. That's a little unfortunate.
A bit unfortunate.
902 still going off previous round results is serviceable.
Oh yeah, most certainly. Yeah, that's like still a pretty solid time to get. Not bad at all. Interestingly, I do see some talk in the chat where it looks like perhaps Luke Griesser had picked the puzzle up and made a turn, or at least he picked it up before he signed the time. That is
Yes.
a
He did this
particular
on
note right
3x3.
now, but
He did something
yeah.
as well. On his 620, he picked it up and like wiped it off before he signed.
yeah, so this is a particular note right now because the very, very high profile incident, Yiheng Wang getting the ASR 3.27, but he picked up the cube and did many turns on it before he had signed for it. And the regulations say that has to be DNF'd. I personally believe, and this is something that we discussed on Speedcubing TV's new podcast talk show, +3, that we have this new rule now where we can use frame-by-frame analysis to both add and waive penalties. In my opinion, the video clearly shows that the solve was executed and completed, either in this case with a +2. I think you can use frame-by-frame analysis to let it stand, but it looks like we're gonna have to enter it as DNF for now and then fix it later.
Yeah. Call me a hater if you want, but I was actually in favor of the DNF on that decision.
Okay. Okay, interesting.
Just because
I would love to hear why. Let's hear it.
Yiheng has competed at numerous competition, and someone made a joke that Yiheng learns the regs by breaking them, which like is kind of funny because of how many times he's done it. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's people. Like, if anything, this is just good because it leads to more clarification in the regs about whether or not, like, what counts as inspected, right? Does it mean the cube should not be touched if it has been signed for, or is it solely if the judge inspects it? And the tricky part about the Yiheng situation is they asked if the judge saw the cube was solved, or if the judge inspected it, and the judge said explicitly no. In that case, you can't allow the solve to stand if the judge says he didn't look at it. People were pointing out frames saying that like he definitely looked at it. There's a frame where he saw it, but you know, if they say they didn't do it, then that is just the situation. Like, sorry, the solve, and you know, it's a rookie mistake in all honesty for Yiheng to make. Like, he knows better than that. So
that's definitely true. And honestly, I did have a take where I'm like, maybe it does make sense for Yiheng to get DNF for it, because I don't want people to be like, oh, well, Yiheng touched the puzzle and got away with it. Yiheng did turns on the puzzle and he got away with it. That would be very, very annoying to deal with, because there are already people who have told me like, oh, why can't I slide? Yiheng can slide. I'm like, no, dude, this is like not how it works. Like, he may not have been punished in the moment, but he ended up getting punished in the end. Just follow the regs. Do what the regs say to do, and then you should be okay.
Yeah, it legitimizes the action when it's a top level solver doing the thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
and especially someone of such high notoriety as Yiheng, it is it's gonna have an effect. The judge trying Jacob's square one there, doing a little turn. That's funny. Yeah, Jacob unfortunately is counting a 9 here. He doesn't seem too happy with how the average is starting off. It is always hard when you start off with a time you're not too pleased with, right? It can definitely snowball into something maybe worse than you would hope for. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it looked like he had parity on the solve that he did. So maybe he mistraced. Yeah. He traced correctly and did 2 parodies.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks to Geometric in the chat for backing us up on that. And you know, Jacob is this competitor who has like, you know, 796 average, right? That's WR95 as I mentioned earlier. So yeah, definitely not going to be super happy with counting a 9. But you know, and sometimes it's like, okay, well, am I trying to do this to win the competition, or am I just trying to get the best result for myself, right? And at some point, you kind of have to like end up figuring out what do you want to do, because you have to pick, because if you try and like go for the best result and end up sacking your results at the competition, then you ended up with neither, right? Whereas like if you try and go for like a solid result, you might have to give up on getting a good result overall and just win the competition. So interesting to see what he will do here in his continuing solves. Luke Griesser, 13-5-4. Yeah, he's not very happy with that one. Should have been a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, you would just get your best result and win the comp, you know?
Right, of course.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, someone who has a pretty sizable gap between, like in Jacob's case, for where you saw he had the good average in first round, and he's pretty clearly like a step ahead of the other square one solvers, at least with last round's results. All you want is like, you expect a win generally, and this is how it is for like me in my region with like 3x3. Like, you know, if I win with like a 6-6 average, like I don't the win isn't necessarily what's on my mind. But Jacob gets plenty of rounds. Maybe not Squan specifically, but like we talked about, Ohio is a hub of cubing comps, so I'm sure he will be able to bounce back if the average doesn't play out the way he wants.
Yeah, that's always good to see. I maybe not good to see, but it's always reassuring, right? That like, okay, like I didn't do that well, but when is my next round? Oh, it's 2 weeks from now. Okay, time to lock in and see if I can get a good result. So, you know, that it is that. I think it is like, you know what? It's a little bit hypocritical for me to say it's Skewb, because I definitely do this too. Where I'm like, bad 3x3 results. All right, it's all right. I got a competition in 2 weeks. Like, I'll just pull it back then. Because ideally you just get it done then and there, right? I guess it's cope if you don't learn anything from it. So that's probably the most important thing.
Yes, that's the main thing. Always try to figure out what caused the bad result, rather than just be upset by it, or just expect it to not happen next time.
I wondered, like, do you have any tips for anyone who's watching, like what are good ways, like methodologies that they should use while reviewing results?
Yeah, I mean, record your solves, of course, and then you should record your at-home solves and you should record your in-comp solves, right? Try to figure out differences between those. Just because, you know, ideally you want to transition your at-home results to comp, right? And if there's a difference there, discrepancy, then you want to try to figure out what that is. As well, like, if you see your in-comp results, compare them to other people who are relative to your speed or just like slightly faster, and see maybe like, or maybe just even see like what other people in your round did, maybe like how they would approach these scrambles instead if they post their results. Reconstructing is also a great way to do this. And you know, really like figure out like, oh, was I just being silly here, or was I like actually on something, you know?
All good tips from Dylan Miller, one of the best 3x3 solvers in the world. Got another one on camera. We got two great 3x3 solvers on camera right now. Luke Garrett getting a 13.58 on square one. And Luke Griesser just wrapping up his solve here. Looks like he got stuck on something or other. Is he going to have to resolve? Oh, no, that's probably parity. 24.07, made sure to wrap it up with a bow to avoid any other penalties. I mean, at that point, it's just like a joke solve. So 13.43, best possible. 17.82, worst possible. Not great. It doesn't look like most competitors are doing particularly good in this round. Maybe the scrambles are just not up to par.
Yeah, that definitely could be a factor. It seems like there's just a lot of silly mistakes for most of these people as well. Like, things, uncharacteristic mistakes, things that they typically wouldn't do in solves. Not just like, you know, unfortunately, Jacob mistracing, you know, someone who does CSP all the time, it's, you expect them to trace correctly, so.
Right, of course.
But that is just the comp environment sometimes.
Do you find that your solving gets better or worse throughout the day?
It depends on what event it is and how many solves I've done in the day. Normally at the start of the day, after I'm freshly warmed up, I'm like pretty prime, and then maybe at the end of the day, I'm like just burnt out. I don't care, so I like will just do better. I'd say the beginning of the day and the exact middle of the day, and like by the end of the day, I'm maybe a little burnt out, but generally it's. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
From Jacob there.
6.96, a very nice solve there. Well done.
And you know,
Good of a
if he gets
good bit of
2
comeback.
more of those, right? That kind of saves the average, right? That'll be potentially PR.
That might. It would definitely get into that converse. Actually, it almost certainly would be PR because 796 is basically an 8. So you know, if you have 696, 902, then you're basically have a 7 and a 9, right? So that averages out to 8. So counting 2 of those would definitely be PR. That has to be something that you would definitely be happy with. So yeah, good comeback. Always good to get like a really good solve after getting what you hope is going to be the worst solve of the average, right?
Yeah.
Because like I said, it just opens up the possibility of getting, even if you get like 2 like better than average solves, then those 2 are going to count now, and you can go on your merry way from there.
Yeah. You just want to like, you can have a bad time. You can have 2 bad times, but it's how you come back from that, right? It's not letting it get to you. It's trying to make the best out of what you already have, right? You can't go back and you can't change it, but you can have a good mindset going forward for your next result.
Yep, totally. Here's Luke Van Lanningham now. It's oriented all the pieces, now going ahead and doing some permutation. 10.36, good solve from him. In round 1, Luke actually got a 20 average, so this is a particularly good solve, at least today. And overall, oh, I see. It looks like that round 1 average was actually particularly awful. Overall, looks like Luke's best single result is 9.96. That 10 is definitely much closer to that.
Looks like we're on decent
Garrett?
pace here from Garrett.
Yeah.
Oh, Adge. I know Adge. That's the only one I know.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like he ended up DNFing. He must have like mistraced or something because he had just a 2 swap. I don't know if they call it I. That's what I would call it, at least. Yeah, 2 swap on bottom. He immediately picked it up because he saw that it was going to be DNF anyway. Yeah, a bit unfortunate because it did look like he was on pace there.
Yeah. That's
unfortunate.
That is unfortunate.
Aside from the one, like, I guess aside from Jacob's solves, we haven't really seen a lot of particularly good solving from anyone in this round.
That's not solved.
Oh. And another
Also a DNF, unfortunately. Wow.
Back-to-back DNFs from the Luke G's.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going on. What I didn't particularly see there. That one, I wonder if that was also opposite swap, or if that was.
Well,
more
he
of
had
like a
parity.
thing.
Like he had just a op swap.
So that's the same mistake actually that Garrett made too.
Okay.
He also had op swap at the end, which is interesting. For Griesser, his op swap was red and
Red orange, yeah.
Okay, so his was red orange and Garrett's was blue green. I was wondering if it had something to do with the lighting, maybe. Oh no, that looks like a U-perm, dude.
Yeah. That does look like a U-perm.
Okay, yeah, so that was a U-perm instead. I thought that maybe there was like some weird lighting thing that caused like blue and green to look similar and then red and orange to look similar, maybe. But I think they're just completely unrelated.
Yeah. Just,
I'm just trying to conspiracy theory, like pull something out here. What's going on? Why is everyone DNFing?
Yeah. Bro,
Everyone
Kevin
sucks
Hayes
at
with his
square
lighting.
one? Alright, Jacob Bennett is back at the desk, ready to go to work on this square one after getting a 6.92 in the last solve.
Oh, I don't.
We're going underneath the table. That's usually not a great sign. Yeah, just very long. 10.92. Man, very, very unfortunate. Jacob, unfortunately, is going to be counting 10.53 and 9.02. Best possible 8.84. No longer possible to get PR.
You know, he might not be doing great for himself. He might not be solving to like what he would want, but at least he's not alone in that, right? I think like
Yeah.
you said, this kind of whole round has been, people kind of underperforming to their standards. Maybe.
Some weird juju going on. I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah,
I really hope that
yeah.
doesn't continue into 3x3 finals. I want to see the top competitors. I want to see everyone in 3x3 finals just do their best. So
Yeah,
maybe everyone is just shaking their nerves out right now and just getting prepared for the main event at the end of the day. About 5 p.m. in Ohio right now. 4 p.m. for Dylan, 2 p.m. for me here in California. It's been a good solid day of cubing so far. Any takeaways from what we've seen throughout this comp?
No, I don't have anything in particular. I think in this round we haven't seen too many great results. Maybe that takes the pressure off for the later rounds. I find like when I absolutely throw around it if it's something I don't care about, right? If it's like, if I do Pyra and I DNF or whatever, it's I just think it's a joke, and then I keep going. I go into my next event, and then it's fine. I try not to take it too seriously, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We do have, after this, we are going to have Pyraminx finals and then 3x3 finals. And we did see that Pyraminx was actually pretty interesting. I actually had a good amount of fun commentating that round. So hopefully the finals are going to bring a little bit of fireworks. We can see some good scrambles there as well. And then, of course, 3x3 finals. Luke Garrett versus Luke Griesser. Luke G versus Luke G. A rematch of a classic battle that we've seen over and over again, most recently at Great Lakes Championship, where Luke Garrett took the crown. But before that, at both NA All-Stars and North American Championships, Luke Griesser taking the crown instead. So that's going to be really exciting. You'll want to grab your popcorn, go to the bathroom, get everything else out of the way. So you'll want to watch that live coming up shortly.
Yeah, it's going to be electric.
Couple more square one solves, I think, before we get there. A little bit of an exec error on that orienting stage. And now on to permuting. Last couple moves here. Little AUF, or I guess, I don't know what they call it, ABF? Adjust both faces, maybe? 1733 in the end.
Yeah, potentially it could be called. I always hear the term AUF, and I never understood that it literally meant adjust the upper face. And then I heard ADF, ABF, and I was like, whoa.
What is ABF? Why would ABF ever exist? Yeah, but why would that exist? On what
like
puzzle?
You have A perms and like it's kind of the backside. I don't know, or maybe I don't know. D at least ADF, because some G perms you can like do it. Like
yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. Those do show up. I guess you could do that for clock also if you want to adjust the back face for whatever reason, if you know that that's off. But that's neither here or there. We are getting the results for square one pulled up here. Jacob Bennett is going to end up winning 9.68 average. Alex Bronsdorf 10.10 average. Braden Richards is going to end up getting third, 11.75 average. Luca Garrett finishing in fifth, 15.22. And Luke Griesser in ninth, 17.82 average. With that said, we are going to go to a quick commercial break. We're going to bring you Pyraminx finals. After that, we're going to bring 3x3 finals, where things are getting heated up here in Oxford, Ohio. We hope you are going to tune in for the rest of the broadcast. See you soon.
Hey, we're your SpeedCube shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup SpeedCubes. Our team of experts will dial in your SpeedCube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade, and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
So where's everyone off to?
Ha! Bones, you're up next. Bones?
Bones is off chasing a good time, just like everyone else hopping on a Denago e-bike.
What about our game, bro?
Experience riding in a whole new way.
How new are we talking? Because I'm here for the exercise.
Well, there's a Denago bike for all levels. Increase the electric pedal assist to ride as casual as you want without breaking a sweat, or turn it down to make those legs burn. Go to Denago.com to check out our bikes and find your local Denago dealer.
Welcome back, everyone. Swoop In and Solve Oxford 2024. You saw on that ad, Bones was chasing that good time. He's actually on his way to Oxford, Ohio right now. He might not get there for Pyraminx finals. He's waiting for 3x3 finals. He's pedaling as hard as he can. He's got that bike on absolute blast, trying to make his way from wherever he is. Probably, for some reason, in my mind, he's in Michigan. But in any case, Pyraminx finals is going to be coming up right now. We're going to have 3x3 finals immediately after that. We saw a pretty fun Pyraminx round 2. Carson Clark ending up with a 2 flat PR average to win that round. Just behind him, Harsha Paladugu, 2.41. Luke Van Lanningham behind him, 2.43. Steven Wintringham just behind that, 2.47. So there's like a pretty big cluster of solvers here. Could kind of go any way. You got to pick, Dylan. Who's going to win this one?
It's really tough to say, man. I feel like traditionally I should bet on Harsha. That's my guess here. Former NR holder, I think single. And like we said last round, look at this TPS right here, man. That's crazy. But
yeah,
he's probably the most knowledgeable method-wise of the group. So.
Yeah, if there's something nifty in the scramble that only he can see, perhaps he can pull something out here. As you can see right there, 0.98, that's best good for NAR number 4, 1.73 official average. Here we go. Harsha on scramble number 1, 1.54. That's much better than what we saw in round 2. Getting started with a really, really solid solve and great execution on a 4-tip scramble.
Yeah, the way he did that tip to start was really interesting. He did like a U push from the backside to do the U move, which is probably just a tactical decision to keep him in position to do his next few moves.
Yeah, that's pretty pro. The other thing I thought was really interesting is that the tip on R, he did that as he was picking up the puzzle. So he picked up the puzzle with one hand and then kind of pushed to give a little nudge, and that he was able to do R on that little tip there to end up solving that. That is like just pro. It's so pro because like a lot of people are like, oh, we should just get rid of Pyraminx tips and keep the rest of the puzzle. But then we would miss out on like really, really high skill performances like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think tips are what make the puzzle, right? If you carve the tips and it was just the body, it'd be kind of lame, in my opinion.
Well, here's a competitor who's not lame at all. Carson Clark. I'm gonna say let's feed the hot hand. Let's see what he can do here. 2.52. He's shaking his head, not particularly happy with that. That is worse than every single one of his results. Well, I guess other than the last solve in Pyraminx second round. But who knows? Maybe he can come up with something good. Not finding the same solution Harsha did. Still overall like pretty solid execution. He can definitely expect to contend with a time like that, but probably going to need something a little bit better, or is going to have to hope that the other competitors can't find good solutions on the rest of the 4 solves.
I mean, I would say Pyraminx is probably the most competitive event that we have today.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, there's 5 people in top 100. Luke, unfortunately, did DNF round 1, so he's not in this final. But still, there's plenty of viable solvers that could make it. So.
Yeah, as Harsha sits down for number 2, he's got a good solve number 1 already. So let's see what he can do. Maybe kind of back that up.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Cube starts off a little bit to the left of center. We're looking at another 4-tip scramble. Not ideal, unfortunately. A couple of pieces that are twisted in position. Ending up rotating. Looks like he maybe missed. I don't know if that was a one look or maybe he was tracing. Looks like just a mistake there. He's going to end up with a 3.27, hoping that he's not going to count it.
I think he just missed the last move or something.
I think, yeah, exec looks right to me.
Yeah, but yeah, you see him, he kind of wiped off the cube there. Maybe the cube like slipped out of his hand. That's definitely something that we've seen before. And we have Steven coming up for the next solve, as well as Carson.
Yeah, I see Steven and Carson. This is kind of goes back to what you were mentioning earlier. I feel like Pyraminx turning is still, like, even if it is getting closer to 3x3, I still think it's a pretty non-trivial puzzle to grip. I guess, at least for someone at my skill level. Does not seem particularly easy. I feel like it's probably pretty easy to slip, if anything, so...
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the transition from pure returning to be more like wrist turns like Drew Brad's used to be to now it's like flicks, and that development has been interesting for me to see as you see how you see how Carson he's flicking all of his moves. There's no wide turns here, and even like this B move, it looks like he flicks it. Look, you see, so
that does flick.
The turning is definitely different, but it's more reminiscent of a 3x3 nowadays than what it used to be, solely relying on like wrist turns and whatnot.
I guess, the flicks have like a pretty big advantage in that they're way faster to execute than a wrist turn. I guess the downside is you could also just miss flick. You just miss the flick entirely and just whiff. And exactly. that is a bit of a downside, but I think that's a pretty good risk to take. Yeah, we saw Steven Winteringham get 2-9 on what may have been his first solve. Not sure if he had done a solve prior. Harsha solved number 3. He's definitely in the lead right now. Another 4-tip scramble.
Oh my god.
He didn't start the timer. He did not start the timer. You have to wait until the timer, the light goes from yellow to green. You can see here,
that
just never
like
started.
Sub 2 for sure. That was like a sub 2 as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, see?
Immediately as you said it. That means he's going to count 3.27. That is definitely... His average is trending in the exact opposite direction of where we thought it was going to go and where he wants it to go. He's going to need to pull it back here.
I was going to say, it looked like he didn't hold it long enough, and I've been the victim of doing this twice in an average multiple times. And we see Luke Lanningham very clearly starting his timer here, getting a 2.56.
One thing I thought that was really interesting on this one is before Luke set it down, he actually like moved his right hand kind of over to where he was going to do the flick, almost as if he was like mentally priming himself, like, I'm gonna do this move, then then put the puzzle down, started the timer, and then did that exact move to follow up. I thought that was interesting, maybe a bit of a like psych up moment.
Yeah, definitely plausible. And Carson getting a 183. I think that's the tied best solve we've seen on stream today. Oh, actually no, sorry. Carson just got the 1.5.
Oh yeah, he got 1.5. Yeah, so some pretty good solve coming out from him, but that also lends credibility to it was probably going to be sub 2, the one that Harsha ended up DNFing. Yeah. Maybe he ended up finding something similar or of similar length. That's unfortunate. Harsha's gonna need to pull it back here. This is finals too, so.
I just saw Harsha setting up his camera there, and when you see people like fumbling around before the round even starts, or like even on like your warm-up cubes or whatever, it's generally a sign that maybe there's some nerves there or some shakes. Because I've been in similar situations, and so it's just something to keep note of.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite him. 3 tips here. That was a great looking solution.
Super clean.
That was so good. That may have been, it's tough for me to say, that may have been close to optimal.
Yeah, that was...
I think from an execution standpoint, probably pretty close to optimal. Maybe not from move count, but that looked amazing. Just completely fluid, start to end, no rotations, no weird gimmicks going on here. He was in control of that, 100%.
Most definitely. You hear him talking about not starting the timer in the background here.
Oh boy. All right, Carson now. He's on solve number 4. This should be the same scramble that Harsha just got. Indeed, it does look like that. Looks like he had got a good start, but unable to capitalize on the end. Execution error perhaps 2.41. His BPA 2.25. He actually has a pretty narrow BPA WPA. Relatively consistent solving from him.
Yeah, very slight lockup just on the end there.
Oh, what the?
Yeah, you know, he was turning good, and then just like the last edge insertion just didn't go his way.
Yeah, unfortunate. I mean, that could have been very, very low too, like 2-0 or 2-1, maybe even sub 2. That would have given him a bit better chance. As it stands right now, if Harsha BPAs, Carson is out of it. He would not be able to beat him. But in order for Harsha to BPA, he's gonna need to count 1-5.
Yeah. I was gonna say
very
1-5 is
task.
not trivial. Yeah, 1-5 is definitely pretty tricky to get.
And part of what I wonder is, like, it might just be impossible depending on the type of scramble you get. Here we go.
Yeah.
Single tip. So maybe there's a chance here. He's got that on top. There does look like there's like 1 or 2 blocks. Unable to finish it. 3.61. That's gonna count 2. Bad solution, he says. 327, 361. 176 is what he counted. 288 to finish. Carson is guaranteed to beat him now. The fact that Carson and Harsha are discussing makes me think that Carson already did that scramble.
Maybe.
Because otherwise the competitor should not be discussing scrambles.
What? Were they discussing scrambles or just times? I couldn't...
Well, he said that was an awful solution. To me, that sounds a little bit like discussing the scramble. I guess that's true. Yeah, you're right. That might be ambiguous, yeah.
If he was like, hey,
it might be that I found an awful solution as, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Definitely, you know, we need to lock them up yet.
No, I'm not shooting any shade. I'm not shooting any shade. I'm thinking I got the delegate cap on where I'm like, oh no, someone better not be talking about this scramble.
Yeah.
Steven 275, he shakes his head immediately after, just as every single cuber does after a solve that isn't their PB or PR.
that is very true. Yeah, you get even sometimes, you know, Yihang Salt shakes his head mid solve on like a 3-9. You know what I'm saying? The meta's evolving.
Yeah, just wild. It's so funny how, like, as a cubing culture, we've all just like ingrained in ourselves that, man, if it isn't a lucky scramble, if it isn't my best solve, could have been better, mid, trash, whatever, next solve, keep it going, whatever, forget it. Just end the average.
Yeah, you gotta hit the head shake. That's characteristic.
Well, it looks like based on, like, so we can see all the cameras in the background now, even though the stream cannot. It looks like they're kind of looks like they're like wrapping up, ready to go. Probably going to advance on to the next group, which means, sorry, the next group meaning they're going to move on to 3x3 finals, I think. Unless they're going to do this one in 2 groups also. Pyraminx I would be a little bit surprised to do in 2, since it is like fast.
Skewb was the same.
That's a good point. They did do that for a Skewb. But it seems like production does say probably 2, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because we didn't see John Gaynor. I don't know if that was a product of him just not being on stream, or if that was a product of just him
actually,
not solving yet.
So actually, I see on WCA Live, John Gaynor actually is excluded. So I think he actually may not have made, like, he was not available to compete in this round, and so he left himself out, and then another competitor was able to compete in his place.
I see.
We are now calling 3x3
Harsha making there we go. So Harsha's making the announcement right now. 3x3 finals is coming up, ladies, gents, and folks beyond the binary. This is going to be very exciting. We are definitely going to be looking at Luke Garrett versus Luke Griesser. Of course, our marquee matchup. Based on what we saw in round 1 and round 2, this is going to be very exciting. And of course, these guys have so much history within cubing against each other. It'll be very exciting to see. I'm super pumped for it. I know Dylan is super pumped for it. The ad is so pumped for it. It's like raring to go. So I'm going to send you over to the ad break. Don't go anywhere. Here's what you should do during this ad break. Go grab your snacks, right? Because we're going to have, after this, 15 minutes of just fireworks. So be back soon.
Hey, we're Skewb Shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup speed cubes. Our team of experts will dial in your speed cube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
So where's everyone off to?
Bones, you're up next.
Bones is off chasing a good time, just like everyone else hopping on a Denago e-bike.
What about our game, bro?
Experience riding in a whole new way.
How new are we talking? Because I'm here for the exercise.
Well, there's a Denago bike for all levels. Increase the electric pedal assist to ride as casual as you want without breaking a sweat, or turn it down to make those legs burn. Go to Denago.com to check out our bikes and find your local Denago dealer.
Welcome back, everyone. I told you to go get your snacks and drinks. I know I saw Dylan munching on something back there. I got a nice Thai iced tea here. I am ready for 3x3 finals, everyone. It's going to be a blast. Now, some breaking news. We are going to be doing 3x3 finals in 2 groups, it seems. There are 32 competitors, and certainly not that many scrambling stations or personnel available to help. So we're going to be breaking that up into 2 groups. My guess is that what's going to happen is we are going to do the bottom 16 or the slower 16 first. They're all going to go compete, and then we will do the top half of the bracket next. I call it a bracket. It's a group. You know, everyone is competing against themselves and themselves only. Any thoughts on what we're going to see in this first half, Dylan?
Well, yeah, if we're just going through the first half, I mean, you know, we'll see. I mean, we're seeing Luke Garrett is going to be the judge, you know, coming in clutch as always. But yeah, I think we'll see some pretty decent solvers. I'm not too sure about who's in the bottom 16. But it'll be interesting to see. You know, we might see some PRs, some surprising solves. The interesting thing about this is, like, you know, maybe like you mentioned, like, we're getting 2 different sets of scrambles. So, you know, there's always a superstition of, if you know, at least for me, if the bad set is the first set, then the next set is good. If the first set's good, then the next set's gonna be good too. You know what I'm saying? So you always get the good set on the second one, right? You always gotta get the good set on the second one. So no matter what, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm curious to see what kind of solvers we got in Ohio today.
Certainly, yeah. It'll be really fun to see. It looks like this competition is actually really fun because not often do you get to see a finals where this many people make it into finals. Most of the time, it's like a 16-person finals, and it ends up being kind of tight. But we did overhear Braden say that they're running ahead of schedule, and because of that, it's like, okay, well, if they're going to run ahead of schedule, they might as well just allow more people to compete, right? Because, you know, usually you get a room booked for a certain amount of time anyway. So, and, you know, if anything, this is a really good opportunity for those who don't know that much about 3x3 solving. Dylan is literally an expert, right? Like, I kind of know what's going on, but Dylan really knows what's going on. He can tell you everything from front to back of what we can expect to see from these 3x3 solvers and how that will differ from the top solvers. Dylan, take it away.
Well, yeah, let's see if we can get the replay on this one. But it looked like, you know, the dude was just doing pretty simple stuff. I saw there was a few too many rotations, actually, given, you know, what you would typically expect. Here we're getting the replay. Pretty quick start. He's rotating for this. It takes him a second to get into this solution, this first pair solution. you know, whether he knows it or not, he was making pretty decent EO decisions. Interesting, you know, we wouldn't see really that F move solution for that front right pair either. Oh yeah, there's just some unnecessary rotations here. That's just the main thing. You know, doing some, you know, less traditional solutions, like he did one like back right alg with like lefty and then righty gen, which is like not traditionally what you would see, but you know, gets it done in the same way.
Yeah, that's kind of more or less what we're going to see. I feel like there is a difference between the top level and just like the average competitor. Obviously, these competitors are a little bit better than average. They did make it into the 3x3 finals. But what is interesting is that everyone is kind of using the same method, but everyone is kind of along different. Everyone is like has different progressions along the same method here. As we watch Braden get started with solve number 1, everyone is really going to be doing cross, F2L, OLL, PLL in some way, shape, or form. Some people are going to skip some steps. Some people are going to make different and smarter decisions. But what I find really interesting is that method, that framework, kind of just works for everyone. You don't have to be a top-level solver to be using, like, you know, at least the same fundamentals that the top guys are using.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Braden made a few interesting decisions here, some hesitancy as well, like you kind of mentioned in the last round. But one thing about Braden is like he's actually really good. He's like the world's best mirror blocks solver. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Yes.
But,
yes.
You see him with the mirror blocks tripod there, repping his favorite event. So yeah, I mean he's a competent 3x3 solver. Like, you know, there's just a few silly mistakes that he's making here and there.
Yeah, Braden is actually like a really, really good all-rounder. I think he has like he nemesizes like a ton of people. He actually used to nemesize me until relatively recently, until I got my 22 FMC single. So yeah, Braden's like very, very good like across the board.
I didn't know you had a 22. Good job, buddy.
I do have a 22. I also like I did the same scramble as the 16. And I actually found this. So I did it like I just took the scramble, and I guess I knew that there was a 16 available.
Yeah.
And I just did it at home, and I ended up finding the same 16. So who knows? Maybe one day.
Don't even need this apparently.
That day is definitely not today, mainly because I suck, but also because there's no FMC here. We got just standard 3x3 speed solve, which is, you know, the purest form of the Rubik's Cube. Going on 50 years. This is 50 years since the invention of the Rubik's Cube. Tons of stuff has been going on in the speed cubing community, especially post-COVID. We've seen a ton of people involved now. Like I've said, it's grown so much in the last several years. And yeah, it's just been awesome. So good to see everyone having fun, everyone competing, and watch our sport grow more and more. 12.29 from this competitor. Yeah, pretty solid solve overall.
I'm curious to see that V perm. I think is what it was. It was like a RUD V perm, but I think it's the inverse of what people traditionally do, like the Yihang Alg.
Oh, interesting. Well, here we go. Ask and you shall receive. Here's the replay here.
You. Pretty decent. Yeah, these are like decent decisions. This rather see you rotate for that F move. No, it was. I did not see what PL that was. It looked like
I didn't.
Though.
Yeah, I think it did not. I didn't see the blockiness that you would usually see from a V perm. As this competitor gets 9.19, that's the best solve we've seen so far.
Yeah, pretty clean.
Yeah, very solid. It looks like the groups are actually a little bit shifted. It isn't necessarily that it's like the bottom 16 because Braden actually got 9th in the last round. But this is pretty typical. Sometimes the delegates will like shift people around such that, okay, well, you're the delegate, so you can you'll have like one person who delegates this group and then one person delegates the other group. That way there's always a delegate available. You can avoid a Yihang situation where there isn't a delegate available. You have to ask for an extra, then the extra it wasn't given, you don't know what's going on, do the solve anyway, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, very noble of delegates to change their competing experience to make the comp run better.
I'll take it. That's
really
praise for me.
Really quick first pair here. Interesting second pair. This is a it seems like a very interesting turning style too. He seems to be very like he seems to be a very accurate turner, which like you don't see that much. Like every turn looks like it's perfectly 45. Like look, exactly bang on, and especially this double sledge here, that's like pretty clean.
Yeah, that is not easy.
There's some rotations
That is
here.
not easy.
But it looks like these are super precise turns. Like even
on that F firm too.
Yeah, you don't really see that from even top level solvers. Like I mean, you want to cut corners ideally, so you don't like you want it to not be intrusive how much you're corner cutting, because then when you cut too much, then it eventually kind of makes you lock up and whatnot. But yeah, interesting to see.
Now, one thing that I think is also interesting is we see Luke Garrett judging here. Him judging means that he's not warming up. I wonder... That's interesting. I know that he is very, very helpful at competitions, and that's actually greatly appreciated from an organizer delegate standpoint. But I'm wondering like how he's gonna like if he's just gonna have like a shortened warm up period then or something. That'll be curious to see.
Luke's just like that, man. He's like
he doesn't need it. Maybe he just doesn't need it.
He literally does not need it. It's crazy. I will say I'm not as noble a man as him. I will take my warm up time, sir. I'm sorry. I mean, unless like we really need help, I'll help out. But you know, if I can avoid it, I will. But yeah, Luke's always great about that. So and he doesn't really need the warm up. He just sends it, and he just normally does well.
All right. I mean, look, he's just built different. That's also a skill, right? To just be able to like put on the boosters and perform at your best, like without the warm up. I don't think I would be able to do that. Then again, I'm just a trash tier solver overall, so maybe even with the warm up, I'm also just bad. It is what it is.
There's
professionals are just different.
Yeah, there's something to be said for like warming up too much, right? If you have too much, like I've noticed sometimes like when I warm up too much, like maybe I get burnt out going into the event, but maybe it's also just like he's not thinking about the round right now, right? We talked about it before, but Griesser really, I feel like, thinks a lot about every round that he's going to be participating in, and if he's not judging right now, that means he's warming up, and it's kind of like you're icing yourself in that sense, where you're just spending that time kind of like waiting for the round to happen, and then you're doing solves, and then like there's the anticipation leading up to you actually competing, and then there's the expectation of, oh, I was doing good in warm up, now I'm going to do good in comp, or maybe I'm doing bad in warm up, oh, I'm going to do bad in comp. Then it can also go the other way as well, right? So like
you just tank.
Luke is literally just like, yeah, he's just out of sight, out of mind. You know what I'm saying? Like he can just go into the event, pretty carefree attitude, and just let his former practice speak for itself.
In other words, you can always cope, right? You could be like, if you did well, you're like, all right, I did well. If you did badly, it's like, I didn't warm up. So of course I didn't.
Yeah, he has the goated option select.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. This scramble in particular was one that I noticed. Yeah, I thought yellow too. Yellow looked like it had a really nice cross and maybe a little bit of a continuation. Steven decided to pick white instead, pausing a little bit on that last pair, going into OLL, and now a G perm.
And Steven
calmly executing.
Using the Hudong here, I don't know, that's a more recent puzzle, but he's been a very big advocate of the cube, at least in like my circles.
Interesting.
Yeah, he swears by the Hudong.
Why? What makes it so special? Just the feel?
Yeah, well, it's the newest cube from Fangshin. It's just a really interesting design. Like it has an entirely circular center. Like the center is a circle. Honestly, when I tried it, it feels like the Huameng TG. Like it has a lot of momentum. It feels pretty light. It feels it's pretty swishy. It's just a really solid cube, especially for the price. It's like $22, I think, or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's super solid. It's got all the madness you could want. It's really an interesting cube. I think it serves a really specific demographic, but the people who would like it are going to love it.
I mean, for what it's worth, I think like the cubing populace as a whole is like very, very spoiled for choice when it comes to hardware. Like we have so many hardware options, and for the cuber who's starting out, right? I get this question all the time, like what puzzle should I be using? I'm like, dude, just pick up anything. Like that's how you get started, right? You can
Oh,
pick up
yeah.
literally like a $3 puzzle, and you can very comfortably get to sub 30, and then from there you just pick up a $10 puzzle, get to sub 20. You don't need like absolutely fantastic hardware. I always recommend to people the V5 because even the standard edition is just so. But I love my standard, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so good. Just 2 drops of silicone, and it works for me for the purposes I need it to. I think I've got a 7 on that at home, like a week ago, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
So there's just so many good options. I think we definitely live in a very, very nice era in terms of hardware, at least overall, the overall cubing community.
Even nowadays, like, you can go to your Walmart and buy a Next Cube, and it's literally a Meilong. You know what I mean? Like, you could do that. You don't even need to buy. You could go to your local store, or the Rubik Speed Cubes are good enough to where, like, you can just do that. Also, Griesser doing the goated strat. I've done this before. You teach your partner how to judge you for finals because you don't have enough people to help. That's the goated strat. I got PR average in January by doing that. So, you know.
There you go. There you go. Ah, yes, and then the fake cube cover.
Yeah, well, the judge has to practice. The judge has never judged before.
Of course,
There's a conflict
yeah.
of interest here. I think. Maybe.
Technically, maybe perhaps in. Yeah, of course. Maybe perhaps in, like, you know, the most uptight WCA, obviously you'd want to have like referees, right? Every judge would be like a delegate, ideally. But, you know, I guess this goes to show, and this is actually something that a lot of people ask, is like, oh, how hard is it to be a judge? Like, I don't know how to cube. You actually don't need to know how to cube. You need to know how to read numbers. You need to know how to follow instructions, and you need to know how to start and stop a stopwatch. And all of those things are like relatively easy, right? If you're a parent, like you can totally do it if you're a parent. And if you know just a little bit about cubing, like as Luke is showing here, just what's a +2, what's a DNF, and if you don't know, just ask. Like, we're more than happy to help out new judges, and we definitely appreciate all the help we can get as organizers and such. So I think this is awesome. This is definitely evidence for anyone who's just bored sitting at a competition. You got no idea what to do. You watched all of the YouTube that you could. It's not that hard. Just jump into the seat and figure it out.
Nowhere, so I know you guys all have a long drive home.
I'll tell runners to give me to you and Garrett want to win. It's just a battle every single time. The last competition that I had against Luke Garrett, whenever I didn't beat him, like, I would be unbelievably upset.
Just saw Luke Griesser get into the first position at North American Championship. You are guaranteed a podium.
I feel like he had a pretty lackluster performance at NAC.
And he's underway. Good turning, bit of a lockup.
He's back, and he's back with a vengeance, I think.
They are very familiar with pressure, and they are very familiar competing against each other as well.
Very, very smooth. What was that? That was great.
Cross, interesting.
I don't think anyone has picked Blue Cross here, but that's a 5 from Luke. Ooh, a little bit crunchy to start, but his turning is just so fast. Luke Garrett can still get onto the podium.
Luke Griesser is in 3rd place.
Oh. Bit locky.
Coming in 3rd place, Luke Griesser!
You heard it there, fully set with Hot to Go. Dylan was jamming out in the background. Well-edited video from the Speedcubing TV production team. You heard some great voices there. Kevin Hayes, Chris Mills, some goofball by the name of Manu Singhal commentating there. These guys are 2 storied competitors, back-to-back. They've got loads of experience. It's just going to be a blast to see what they're going to bring here. As I mentioned earlier, Luke Garrett having a bit of a disappointing experience at NAC in 3x3 and his other events. Winning Great Lakes Championship, becoming the Great Lakes champion in what I think is going to be his revenge tour. But this is not to discount Luke Griesser. Absolutely fantastic competitor overall. And he has an amazing mental, and he has been on the grind recently. I remember he had a video that he posted in the car. He's quitting social media. He's just going to go off the grid Just going to be practice on, practice off as much as he can. You can see the results from round 2 here. It's neck and neck. Luke Garrett is sat down at the table. We're going to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle in. My Thai tea is going to be empty by the end of this. I can tell you that.
Thank you.
And of course, alongside me, we have the fantastic Dylan Miller to get us started off here. Dylan, what do you see?
Okay, there's really good stuff on red here, which I think he's now looking at. There's a free pair, and it looks like something that's usable. If not, he doesn't seem to know what he's doing. He's going for red. Yeah, oh, good ult. Yeah, that's a really nice ZB. I think it's an 11 mover. I happen to know that one. Yeah, so he didn't seem too solid on what he was going into at the beginning here, but red sticks out like a sore thumb. I think he should have maybe honed in on that a little bit earlier. Follows pretty good principles here. He gets EO, and then yeah, you can see slight recognition troubles there. Yeah, this is a really nice ZB.
Yeah, that one is pretty good. That's one I know as well. What I think will be curious is that red on the other side of that red was white. I wonder if Luke is going to see that and see maybe he can do something with that. It is a little bit harder because instead that was an F2L pair on red. Here it's going to be like kind of like a cross pair. Not quite as good. Let's see what he can do.
Oh, ZBLS?
Then ZB recognition.
ZB, yeah, recog was a little subpar there.
6.59 from him. I thought his F2L looked like relatively good, but it seems like at the end just too many moves perhaps. And again, yeah, you're right. The recognition did take a good amount of time.
He did it.
Looks like he second guessed himself.
Yeah. He was at the wrong execution angle, so maybe he recogged wrong and put it to the wrong execution angle, or he just did that on accident. But yeah, it's I don't think that's what Griesser's going to be looking for on this one.
So here we go. Both Luke G's starting off with 6s here. Luke Garrett 619, Luke Griesser 6.59. Garrett on solve number 2. Can he make some magic come out here? He managed to best Luke Griesser in both round 1 and round 2. But as we mentioned before, Griesser's had some fantastic results recently.
Oh, yellow
kind of stealing himself.
Nice.
Yeah, yellow looked pretty juicy here as well.
There's also a free pair on green, but I don't think he's looking at that. He's looking at white.
He's actually going white, yeah. He's got white on bottom, going into F2L. He's got some pretty fast, relatively smooth turning. Did F prime 5.94 to finish up.
Dude, Garrett's turning is so good. I'm so jealous, dude. It looks like it just seems like so easy for him. Like he doesn't lock up. You could have potentially canceled into that one. That OLL from there. You can catch it a little bit earlier, but it's not that big of a deal. The hard part is that FF prime that was just unnecessary there. Losing him probably like 0.2.
Yeah, misrecognition, I guess, which is I guess let's hit both Luke G's at this point.
Yeah.
All right, so Luke Garrett
going for yellow.
Yeah, so he picked yellow. He's kind of solving in the shadow a little bit. Got to ZB relatively quickly. 5.55. He hit the jackpot in terms of solving here. That's a good comeback from him. He's in business now. If he can, as long as that's 6.5. If that's 6.5, he can avoid counting that 6.5. He's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and we see. Okay, so this cross solution seems pretty clean. He starts with cross on front. We get this pretty nice rotation for first pair. Generally don't agree with that, but that's fine. And then again, dude, I'm saying it's kind of underrated how often he's getting EO on these solves. Like, it's not like he's doing full ZB, like the ZB method, but he's getting EO like majority of his solves in this comp, and that's scary. If he's doing ZB, like full ZB, that's something to watch out for.
Especially as, he cleans up some of these like recognition problems, and that's just reps, right? So he's gonna get scarier and scarier as he goes on. Garrett looks like originally he was ready, but then kind of called it back here. That white looked particularly no, never mind.
Yeah, white, yellow and white both look good here, so that's good news for Griesser. It looks like, is that a pair on red? I think. Yeah.
Maybe. It looks like he ended up picking green. Got to OLL very quickly, 5-1-3. Both Luke Griesser and Luke Garrett are put the turbo on here for solves 2 and 3 respectively. We have got a match.
It's, dude. This is what I was saying before. Garrett doesn't even do anything crazy. He just does the solve. Like, he literally just does the solve. He turns good. He does simple solutions. Nothing crazy. Nothing bad either.
Really
and then he just does good. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yep, even up to that OLL. Like, that OLL is just very, very straightforward. 7 mover. I think, can you get good PLL prediction from there too? From the Fatsoon?
Yeah, he had Fatsoon. So it was. Yeah, I mean, also you can just. I was talking to Maddie. You can just look ahead on your like that. It's pretty easy to look ahead for there. You can see the blocks coming alive a little bit quicker.
So here we go. Yellow cross is going to be the choice for Griesser. He's looking a little bit crunchy. We ended up with the G perm 5-3-5. Very, very solid solve. He's in the lead. I have to feel like he's in the lead. He's got the better counting time right now.
Yeah. Numerically, he is in the lead. He has a 5-5 counting opposed to a 5-9 counting. But who has the better potential here? I think, you know, if Garrett counts that 5-1, that could be something. But Griesser's PR is 551, so we could be on PR watch here.
Yeah, he could come up with something absolutely wild. Luke Garrett also could come up with something wild. Remember, folks, he does have the second. Does he still have the second best solve in NA? 3.44. No, I think Aaron now has. Wait, blanking a little bit. Let's see what he can produce here on this scramble number 4.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Orange crosses of the choice.
Oh no.
Oh no! Oh no! Op Swap 7.61. That's rough. He is going to count 6.19. 575. 658 is his range. He could still end up with a sub 6 average, but that is a brutal mistake to make.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know, just gives Griesser a lot more leeway here now. Even if he counts this 6-5, he's pretty much at a 6 flat average. So, you know, remains to be seen, but he's hoping for PR here, most likely. He's trying to count this 5-3.
Man, but he's got to make up his mind on what to do. He's just rotating all the way up to 12 seconds.
DBLS?
Soon into Y-perm. 6.96. I mean, it just seemed like that.
It's going to come down to this last solve here. Like I said, he's counted that 6-5 now. They're both pretty much at like 6 flat counting, or like a mean of 2 solves currently. They're at like 6 flat. Yeah, you see. So if Garrett gets BPA, it's just done there.
Right.
But
and if Garrett gets WPA, it's also done.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all the pressure's on Luke Garrett right now to perform. We said he kind of always hits in these spots, but you know, last solve was a little uncharacteristic for him. So interesting to see how it's going to go down.
It's got to make no mistakes here. And again, I feel like there definitely is a bit of a factor if you think about his search depth, what he can do with 6 colors as opposed to just 2 colors. He's got white on bottom right now, switching it up right now. He's got green on bottom. Kind of sticking with that. No blue. No, he's lost. Yeah, I just ended up having to option select. Here's F2L, trying to turn through it. Unfortunate OLL 657. Is that gonna be enough to get the job done?
I think it's gonna be like maybe point. Oh, okay, so yeah, Griesser just has to get sub 6, like 8.
Sub 6
to get the win.
Sub 6-8. Math is hard.
Yeah, for sure. And he seems to be taking his time here, trying to make sure he's ready. And, you know, this is what we were talking about before. It's way easier for him to pick his color. He's not going to get lost. And yellow looks pretty straightforward here.
He actually has white on bottom. Looks like he's going to end up selecting that. Bit of a pause there on F2L2, but this was a great looking solve. 5.26. He's got a great pop-off. He said he has no idea if he's won or not. He has just won. He BPA'd 5.83 is going to be his average.
No, that's just good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just very solid. Dylan, break this down.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was interesting the last two pairs. He did like some rotations that, and it was interesting kind of how it kind of came together for the end. But you know, very, very clean ZB recall compared to the other solves, and then XX was great as well. There seemed like there was like a slight execution thing at the start, like maybe from first to second pair, but other than that, it was really, really clean all the way through. So, yeah, great job to Griesser on the win and the BPA. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look, one thing is like he won, yes, but on the other hand, he got like it's just a really solid average, right? And in particular, I think what he should feel good about is kind of mid to bad start, then 2 good solves, put himself back in the race. Bad solve 4, so you're back against the wall. He doesn't know what's going on with Garrett, right? He might have some idea like, okay, Garrett got a 1.5 or he's got a 7 somewhere, but he doesn't know the decimals and where this is going to pan out. So all he can do is just try and do the best in BPA. And when it came down to it, he was able to do it. Now, of course, this isn't NAC finals or anything like that, right? This is a local competition, but you have to imagine that these types of reps are just going to be useful at the end of the day. Like, the more you can do this kind of stuff, the better solver you're going to be. And what's also nuts, he wasn't even going to compete today. He registered on spot, kind of last minute, showed up, and ended up getting the job done. Great job, Luke Griesser, winning this one over Luke Garrett, the overall winner of Swoop In and Solve Oxford 2024.
Yeah, definitely. BPA always feels good, man. You know, any BPA, especially Griesser, he got BPA to count of 5-3, right? And I know personally that Griesser is really trying to get that PR right now. His PR is from like 2023, so it's been a little bit of time since he's beaten it. And to get accounting 5-3 and 5-5 in this average, if you just imagine that 6-5 is like just a better solve at the start instead, then you know that's PR right there. That's like top 5 in NA. So you know, hopefully we'll see that from him soon. Seems like he's on pace to get there, but like soon enough.
Yeah, whatever he's doing, the grinding off stream, offline, it's working for him. 583. I'm looking up at his results right now. That is his second best round since NAC. So he's looking pretty good there. Just well done overall. And I think you're right. It's just like some small things, and he was like very, very solidly on PR pace. Great solves from both of these guys. One thing I thought that was interesting on this last one was he had a lot of corners oriented in the sense that like he had either white up or yellow up at the end there with white cross at the bottom. Those cases traditionally I've felt have been at least like longer move counts. Kind of want to hear from your perspective how good those cases are.
Dude, okay, I see you. Yeah, I tell this to exactly my students. Yeah, you want to avoid corners pointing upwards, right? Like generally they're the worst cases. The base case of those are generally worse. And you don't want to do them when the corner's pointed upwards because generally you can use another pair's solution to change the orientation to be better for your next pair. So like if you, unless it's like that's why I was saying like the way I didn't entirely catch how he did the second or third and fourth pair, but it looked like it kind of was interesting. It looked like he had maybe triple sexy in there, and like that traditionally you don't want to deal with. Like ideally you would have prevented that earlier on. But yeah, he dealt with it really well regardless of that.
Yeah, so you know that goes to show, and he BPA'd, right? So he was able to do that despite the situation that he was given. So just great stuff from Griesser and Garrett. This was really fun to watch. And also, like, I gotta say, I'm telling you, man, that Pyraminx was actually really, really fun. It was really interesting, really tight, competitive, good competition here in Oxford, Ohio. Brought to you by Speedcubing TV, of course. And yeah, it's just been a great day of competition. We can see on the cameras they're wrapping stuff up. I think that means that it's time to wrap up the stream as well. Dylan Miller, anything last words you want to say to the lovely audience?
Thank you all for tuning in. You know, I think live streams are super hype, especially for a local like this. The fact that there's like such high level competition like this, and in multiple different events, you know, it's really great to be able to broadcast it, and for me especially to be a part of it. So thank you all for the support, and also for the people getting the ads and the sponsors for the stream as well. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, most certainly. With that, it's time to sign off. On behalf of Speedcubing TV, all the people, producers, sponsors, etc., and on behalf of Dylan Miller, this This is Manu Singhal. We're signing off from Swoop In and Solve Oxford 2024. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.